Chapter 198. Chu Luiwei. This name instantly fell clearly into everyone's ears. When Chu Luiwei heard it, she instinctively looked up. Sun Zhongyan had already unfolded the paper ball and showed it to everyone. Those who were close could clearly see that Chu Luiwei was written on it. The huge square was silent for a moment before it exploded like a bowl of water being poured into a pot of oil. Chu Luiwei? Why is it her? Didn't she just enter Tianlu Academy not long ago? Why did they pick her in the first round? But I heard that she's quite strong. Didn't she beat Chu Xianmin back then? But she's a new student after all. I think she's going to be at a disadvantage. Almost everyone in the imperial city knew Chu Luiwei. Hence, the audience was in an uproar when they heard her name. On the other hand, most of the people from Taiyan Academy were confused. Who's Chu Luiwei? I've never heard of her. I don't think there was such a person in the competition 2 years ago. She sounds like a new student. Could she be from country Yao Chen's Chu family? Hey, do you remember that there was a rumor that Tianlu Academy recruited a new student some time ago who passed all 3 assessments? I think that's her name. Many people were stunned when they heard this. Although the 3 academies were in different countries and were quite far away from each other, they would pay more attention to each other's situations because they held the Qing Jiao competition every year. It was already strange for them to recruit a new student halfway, let alone pass all 3 assessments. The students from the other 2 academies had more or less heard about this. Therefore, at this moment, once someone mentioned it, everyone recalled it. Which one is her? I really want to see what kind of person Chu Luiwei is. Compared to the excitement and curiosity of the others, Tianlu Academy was silent. Everyone's gaze landed on Chu Luiwei. No one expected her to be the first to represent the academy. Xiyang could not help but give her a thumbs up. I'm impressed. Your luck is truly heaven-defying. Chu Luiwei rolled his eyes and stood up. Although she didn't want to be the first one to come out, since she had drawn it, she could only accept it. The students in this area were all sitting down. When Chu Luiwei stood up, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. The originally noisy crowd suddenly quieted down for a moment. The girl was dressed in the academy uniform, without any makeup. Her hair was simply tied up, but it still couldn't hide her stunning beauty. Her arched eyebrows were black, her nose was straight, her lips were pink, and her skin was as white as snow. Especially those eyes, they were truly beautiful and intelligent, as bright as the galaxy. She was just standing there, but her entire body was surrounded by an indescribable aura that made people yearn for her, but also carried a faint nobility that made people not dare to blaspheme her. She was devastatingly beautiful, it was true. I didn't expect Tianlu Academy to have such a beauty. Her looks and aura are probably on par with Situ Xingqian's. Not only that, I feel that she's even prettier than Situ Xingqian. It's really rare to see someone with such an aura. If Situ Xingqian was like a lotus flower, pure and moving, then Chu Luiwei was like the sun in the clouds, beautiful and noble, captivating and making people revere her. If there was no comparison, Situ Xingqian was also considered a beauty. However, compared to Chu Luiwei, she seemed to lack something and seemed a little dull. Situ Xingqian was also stunned. She had almost never seen a girl more beautiful than herself. There's actually such a beauty in country Yao Chen's imperial city? That person must have seen it before, right? She pressed her lips against each other and shook her head with a smile, thinking that she was thinking too much. He wasn't someone who would be moved by a girl's beauty. All sorts of gazes swept across Chu Luiwei as if they wanted to see through her. Chu Luiwei turned a blind eye to it as she walked forward and stood in front of the box. Sun Zhongyan shook his head and smiled. Lu Yu, I really didn't expect you to be the first one. I'll have to go on stage sooner or later. Chu Luiwei didn't feel any pressure and looked relaxed. Elder Sun sighed softly. Actually, he was a little surprised that Chu Luiwei was chosen, but he also felt a little lucky. No matter what, Chu Luiwei was the top warrior among the freshmen, so she definitely had the ability. As long as her opponent was also a freshman, her chances of winning would be very high. You'll pick your opponent. Elder Sun gestured at the box. Chu Luiwei nodded and reached into the box. Taiyan Academy's students instantly became nervous. Chu Luiwei moved quickly and took out a ball of paper. She opened the ball of paper and showed it to everyone. Lei Mingwei. After a short silence, Tai Yen Academy's students immediately became excited. Lei Mingwei. It's Lei Mingwei. That's great. It's Senior Lei. It's going to be great. It's going to be a sure win. Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows slightly when she saw how happy the people opposite her were. Who exactly is this Lei Mingwei? Why are they so confident that they'll definitely win? Soon, she saw a tall young man standing up from the front row of seats. Although he was a young man, he looked like he was in his teens. It was more appropriate to call him a young man. He was tall and sturdy, looking like a small mountain. The muscles on his body bulged, looking very intimidating. He clenched his fists tightly and bumped them hard as he laughed. Ha! I didn't expect to be the first one to go on stage. I've really hit the jackpot. Everyone could tell that he was really happy. That was because he exuded a strong battle lust from head to toe. Some of the students beside him also laughed and cheered. Old Lei, you wanted to be the first one to go on stage last time. It's finally your turn now. You have to perform well. That's right. You have to win beautifully no matter what. Senior Lei, don't go easy on her just because she's pretty. Lei Mingwei scolded jokingly. Get lost. In his heart, winning was the most important thing. With that, he strode onto the arena. Tai Yen Academy's Lei Mingwei is here to accept the challenge. Chu Luiwei's lips curled up slightly. It seemed like he was really looking forward to this match. She hadn't even moved, but he had already gone on stage. Many people from the Tianlu Academy looked worried. Lei Mingwei was born with great strength. He broke through to become a Stage 4 warrior last year. Lu Yu will probably be at a disadvantage against him. We're probably going to lose the first match. Mu Hongyu was unhappy when she heard those discouraging words. She immediately stood up and shouted. Lu Yu, I believe that you'll definitely win. That's right. Smash him. Sun Wu shouted as well. Chu Luiwei's smile deepened. He only said, don't worry. Then he walked onto the stage. The two of them faced each other from afar. Lei Mingwei looked her up and down and laughed out loud. With such a small body, he was afraid that he would be sent flying with just one punch. Little girl, if you admit defeat now, it's not too late. Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 199. I'll return the same words to you. If you admit defeat now, I can let you go. Chu Luiwei lifted her chin fearlessly. The smile on Lei Mingwei's face froze. Little girl, you're still young, but you're quite bold. Don't regret it later if you show off now. Chu Luiwei did not have much patience for people who were inexplicably confident. Let's begin. Lei Mingwei frowned. He felt that the little girl in front of him was too arrogant. He heard that she was admitted to Tianlu Academy after passing all 3 assessments. It was inevitable for her to be a little arrogant. However, people with more talent were not necessarily good at it, especially martial artists, who relied on their abilities to fight. There was no room for tricks. Chu Luiwei was too complacent. Alright, since that's the case, let's learn from each other. Little girl, there's a saying that goes, there's always someone better than you. Today, I'll teach you this saying. With that, Lei Mingwei spread his legs apart, bent his knees slightly, and channeled the force in his body into his fists. In the next moment, he stomped his feet and charged toward Chu Luiwei. His bowl-sized fists were sturdy and strong, bringing with them a gust of wind. They went straight for Chu Luiwei's face. Sun-splitting fist. A Stage 4 martial artist's abilities could not be underestimated. This punch was simple and direct without any tricks, but it still made people feel a chill. He was very fast, and the distance between the two of them shortened rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Chu Luiwei. That punch was about to land on Chu Luiwei's face. However, Chu Luiwei did not retreat. Instead, she stood there straight as if she wanted to face the attack head-on. Everyone from Tai Yen Academy looked as if they were watching a good show. Seriously, Mingwei is so merciless. What if he injures or cripples the girl? This sun-splitting fist is one of his best moves. He must be too lazy to waste time and wants to win this match directly. That's true. After all, this is the first round. We have to win beautifully. That Chu Luiwei is too proud and arrogant. I'm afraid he won't be able to laugh soon. On the other hand, the atmosphere on Tianlu Academy's side was very stifling. Almost everyone's expression was grave. If Chu Luiwei lost, not only would it be a disgrace, it would also greatly reduce their morale. What happened to her? He was actually not moving at all? Could it be that he intends to fight Lei Mingwei head-on? Lei Mingwei is a rank 4 warrior. Even if she got first place in the midterm assessment, she's still no match for him. So I'm afraid it's going to be dangerous today. Chu Luiwei could already clearly feel the strong fist wind coming toward her, and the suppression from a stage 4 warrior was even more oppressive. Her current strength was around that of a rank 3 warrior. If she wanted to win against Lei Mingwei, she would need to put in some effort. Lei Mingwei looked at the motionless Chu Luiwei and sneered in his heart. He really didn't know where Chu Luiwei got his confidence from. She actually thought she could win against him. With this punch, the match would be over. However, just as his fist was about to land, Chu Luiwei disappeared in a flash. Lei Mingwei was taken aback. "I'm over here." A clear female voice sounded, and it seemed to be teasing him. Lei Mingwei immediately turned his head and saw that Chu Luiwei had unknowingly moved in another direction. His mind went blank for a moment. How did Chu Luiwei get past him just now? Her movements were too fast, and he didn't even see it clearly. "But, aren't you a rank 1 warrior?" Lei Mingwei was too shocked and couldn't help but ask. "I am." Chu Luiwei nodded frankly and admitted it. However, Lei Mingwei had some doubts in his heart. The moment he came up, he felt that Chu Luiwei's aura was only that of a rank 1 warrior, so he didn't take her seriously at all. But how could a rank 1 warrior have such a fast speed? "You're lying." Chu Luiwei spread out her hands. "What's there to lie about? If you don't believe me, you can ask the teachers and students in the academy to see if I'm a rank 1 warrior." Everyone, it seemed to be true. It was just that Chu Luiwei was a rank 1 warrior who could defeat a rank 3 warrior. Seeing everyone's silent agreement, Lei Mingwei felt even more incredulous. In fact, he could feel that Chu Luiwei was telling the truth. But her speed, Lei Mingwei gritted his teeth and circulated the force in his body, causing his aura to soar again. Previously, he only used 50% of his strength, but now... Lei Mingwei roared and charged towards Chu Luiwei again. This time, his speed and strength were much stronger than before. He didn't see how Chu Luiwei moved and she easily avoided the attack again. Lei Mingwei's second punch missed again. Chu Luiwei raised her brows. "Your punch is a little slow." This sentence successfully ignited the anger in Lei Mingwei's heart. The surrounding spectators also noticed that something was amiss, and their expressions changed. Especially Tai Yen Academy. They were originally prepared to celebrate, but now, it seemed like Chu Luiwei wasn't that easy to deal with. This made them feel awkward. The expression on Cheng Han's face also became somewhat stiff. What kind of movement technique did Chu Luiwei use? "I can't tell." Sidu Xingqian looked at him in shock. "Mentor, even you can't tell?" She knew that Chu Luiwei could avoid Lei Mingwei's attack because of her movement technique, but even her knowledgeable mentor couldn't recognize it? Cheng Han shook his head. She didn't seem to move much, but her footsteps were light and her movements were smooth. It's obvious that it's an extremely advanced movement technique. It's even more exquisite than the ones I've seen in the past. However, the most important thing was that the cultivation of any movement technique required many years of practice. This Chu Luiwei looked like she was only 14 or 15 years old, but her movements were so smooth and natural that it was shocking. When did Tianlu Academy recruit such a student? Situ Xingqian knitted her brows, and a tinge of doubt flashed across her eyes. When Cheng Han saw this, he laughed out loud and comforted her. "Don't worry. She's talented as a warrior, but she definitely won't have any achievements as a Xian master or celestial physician." "You're a celestial physician. You don't have to care about such a person." Situ Xingqian nodded lightly. In the arena, Lei Mingwei's expression was no longer as arrogant as before after his 2 consecutive attacks missed. He stared at Chu Luiwei with a dark gaze. I couldn't tell that you're quite capable. However, this is a competition. Are you going to keep dodging? Chu Luiwei smiled and said, That's right. You make a lot of sense. Since you've already made your move twice, it's my turn now. Lei Mingwei was stunned. What? Chu Luiwei crossed her arms and moved her wrists. A crisp sound was heard. My skills are enough to deal with you. The moment she said that, she tiptoed, and her slender figure instantly flew out. The next moment, her hand had already cleverly locked onto Lei Mingwei's wrist. The girl's hand was slender and soft, and it was warm to the touch. However, Lei Mingwei's heart was alarmed. He pushed her back and was about to retreat. Chu Luiwei quickly followed up. At the same time, she pressed downwards. Gotcha! Lei Mingwei's wrist instantly broke. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 200. The sound of bones breaking could be clearly heard by everyone. Lei Mingwei groaned as his face turned pale from the pain. He looked at Chu Luiwei in shock and anger. You're courting death. His other hand quickly reached for Chu Luiwei's neck. It was as though he wanted to break that slender neck. Chu Luiwei did not continue fighting and immediately retreated. He narrowly avoided Lei Mingwei's counterattack. The two of them exchanged blows for a moment and then separated. Unexpectedly, the one who was injured was Lei Mingwei. When they saw his hand hanging down in a strange position, the crowd immediately fell into a suffocating silence. Then there was an uproar. Did I see wrongly? Lei Mingwei was injured? And Chu Luiwei retreated unscathed? Lei Mingwei is a rank 4 warrior and his physical strength is extremely tyrannical. How could his hand be broken so easily by Chu Luiwei? God, I didn't see Chu Luiwei's movements clearly just now. Did you see it clearly? With this kind of strength, Chu Luiwei actually has the cheek to say that he is a rank 1 warrior. The crowd discussed animatedly and their faces were filled with shock. They thought that this was a match that was destined to end, but from the looks of it now, it was obviously not. Chu Luiwei's strength was far stronger than what they had imagined. All kinds of discussions entered Lei Mingwei's ears and made him extremely embarrassed. This was a very important first match. If he lost, and lost to Chu Luiwei who was a few ranks lower than him, he would be ridiculed by countless people in the future. And he would definitely become a sinner of the academy. How could he continue to stay in the academy? He must win. Thinking of this, Lei Mingwei gathered all the strength in his body and planned to attack with all his might. In his palm, a ball of blue force quickly condensed and then quickly transformed into a long sword. The biggest difference between a rank 4 warrior and a rank 3 warrior was that they could draw their force out of their body to strengthen their attacks. In the past, he had never thought that he would need to use such a method to deal with a mere rank 1 warrior. But at this moment, Lei Mingwei could not care about all these. There was only one thought left in his mind: win. His uninjured hand gripped the long sword tightly. Vigorous origin power poured into the sword endlessly, emitting an astonishing sword aura. In the next moment, he abruptly thrust his sword forward. Profound heavy sword. Wang. When the long sword fell, the surrounding air was rapidly compressed, and a frenzied energy flowed around the sword, producing a buzzing sound that could make one's ears ring. Chu Luiwei felt a dull pain in his ears, and the origin power in his body seemed to freeze at this moment. There was no way for her to dodge the terrifying pressure, and it caused her speed to drop significantly. The pressure of a rank 4 warrior was so strong. Her gaze sharpened as she looked at the descending profound heavy sword. Although there was still some distance between the two of them, this distance wouldn't affect the attack of a rank 4 warrior at all. She quickly looked around, and her mind raced. She could rely on her body movement to gain a temporary advantage, but this was just a trick. Now that Lei Mingwei had reacted, he would definitely attack with all his might. If this dragged on for too long, her origin power would be exhausted first. Therefore, he had to end the battle quickly. Thinking of this, she quickly circulated the origin power in her body. When the origin power surged into her limbs and bones, the pressure on her body finally lessened. Taking advantage of this moment, she immediately retreated. Want to run? Not so easy. When Lei Mingwei saw Chu Luiwei retreating quickly, he immediately understood her intentions and immediately shouted out, "Go!" The profound heavy sword immediately fell. It heavily slashed onto the ground. Clang! The sharp sword edge ruthlessly drew across the white jade ground, producing a teeth-numbing sound. In the next moment, a ball of blue sword aura suddenly flew out from the sword, and like lightning, it went along the ground towards Chu Luiwei. Everyone saw a blue light flash across the white ground, and in an instant, it reached Chu Luiwei's feet. No matter how fast Chu Luiwei's speed was, she was suppressed at this moment, so she couldn't be faster than Lei Mingwei's attack. That blue sword aura was almost at Chu Luiwei's feet. Everyone widened their eyes and stared intently at this scene. This was Lei Mingwei's crushing attack as a rank 4 warrior, so Chu Luiwei probably couldn't avoid it. Chu Luiwei retreated, but the sword aura continued to chase after her. At a certain moment, she suddenly realized something and turned back to take a look. She was already at the edge of the arena. If she continued to retreat, she would definitely fall out of the arena. According to the rules, once she left the arena, she would be considered defeated. Chu Luiwei tiptoed and quickly ran in another direction. But just as she changed her direction, that ball of blue sword aura seemed to have its own consciousness and also changed its direction. It continued to pursue relentlessly. Seeing this, Gu Mingfeng, who had been silent all this while, finally couldn't help but frown. Lei Mingwei is a rank 4 warrior. Not only can he direct his force outwards, within a certain distance, he can freely control his attacks. Looks like his cultivation has already reached the middle stage of rank 4, and this huge arena should be within his attack range. From the 4th stage onwards, every stage of cultivation would be divided into the early stage, middle stage, and high stage. Lei Mingwei had already broken through to rank 4 last year, and now that a year had passed, he had successfully broken through to the middle stage of rank 4. Against Chu Luiwei, he naturally had a higher advantage. Xin Hu was shocked. What? Then what about Lu Yu? Wasn't Lu Yu's speed very fast just now? Could it be that she really can't avoid it? Gu Mingfeng paused. It's a little difficult. Unless she can leave the arena and get out of Lei Mingwei's range. But if that was the case, it was equivalent to losing. Mu Hongyu cursed hatefully. This Lei Mingwei is really cunning. He knows that he's not Lu Yu's match, so he actually used this move. Although she cursed, Mu Hongyu knew that the arena was cruel. Anyone would use all sorts of methods to win, not to mention that this was Lei Mingwei's advantage, so it was reasonable for him to do so. It could only be said that it was too difficult for a rank 1 warrior to fight against a rank 4 warrior. When the Taiyin Academy students saw that Chu Luiwei was being forced back by the sword aura, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. As expected, Mingwei has displayed his true strength. Chu Luiwei can't even withstand a single blow. It won't be long before Chu Luiwei is exhausted and loses miserably. It's a pity that she broke one of Senior Lei's hands. If he knew that Chu Luiwei was so cunning, he would have taken her down from the start. It's not too late now. It's fine as long as he can win. Moreover, Mingwei's temper is very bad. Now that his hand was broken by a mere rank 1 warrior, he will definitely take revenge. That Chu Luiwei is probably going to be miserable. On the arena, Lei Mingwei couldn't help but sneer as he watched Chu Luiwei running away. So what if you continue to hide? I don't believe that you can continue to hide. You're definitely going to lose today's match. Upon hearing that, Chu Luiwei suddenly stopped and looked up at Lei Mingwei. A strange smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Then I won't hide anymore. Then she suddenly raised her hand. A cold light flashed in her hand. It was an extremely sharp dagger. The next moment, she raised her wrist and threw the dagger in her hand. Everyone saw a stream of light flash across the sky. It flew straight towards the blue sword aura that was approaching Chu Luiwei. Clang! The dagger suddenly landed on the ground with a ferocious aura. It actually stabbed into the sword aura. Explode! Boom! After a short moment of silence, the blue sword aura suddenly exploded. In an instant, it was as if thousands of blue flames were falling. The originally fierce sword aura suddenly dissipated. Lei Mingwei suffered from the backlash. His body shook and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly turned as pale as a ghost. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe their eyes. Chu Luiwei actually chose to fight Lei Mingwei head-on and actually gain the upper hand? That short dagger was incomparably swift and ferocious. It actually completely defeated Lei Mingwei's attack in an instant. Chu Luiwei didn't stop at all. She quickly rushed towards Lei Mingwei. In the blink of an eye, she was right in front of him. Then, she lifted her long leg and kicked Lei Mingwei's face fiercely. Lei Mingwei's huge and heavy body instantly flew out. Then, he landed heavily on the ground. A muffled sound rang out. His face became even paler and he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His eyes were wide open and he looked at Chu Luiwei with unwillingness and fear. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something. However, after struggling for a while, his eyes rolled back and he fainted. No matter how strong his body was, his head was the weakest part of his body. Chu Luiwei's kick had landed directly on his head. Naturally, it was a fatal blow. She raised her head and looked at the referee. She was smiling, but her eyes were flashing with cold, killing intent. It made people shudder and not dare to look at her directly. Now, can we decide who's the winner? A better reading experience came from the Love Network. Chapter 201. On the arena, the slender girl stood gracefully with a smile on her face. A gentle breeze blew, and her clothes fluttered. She looked like a painting, ethereal and moving. If one did not look at Lei Mingwei, who had fainted and was covered in blood at her feet, this scene would be quite pleasing to the eye. There was a dead silence in the square. Tens of thousands of people seemed to have lost their voices at this moment as they watched this scene in shock. Chu Luiwei, what happened just now? Chu Luiwei asked calmly again. The teacher in charge of the referee finally reacted at this moment. He stared blankly at Lei Mingwei, who had fainted and could no longer fight. He swallowed his saliva with difficulty before he found his voice again. The winner of this match is Tianlu Academy's Chu Luiwei. A clear and powerful voice instantly reverberated throughout the square. Winner, Tianlu Academy. Chu Luiwei. Every word landed clearly in everyone's ears. The crowd, who was still in a daze and in disbelief, finally woke up from their daze. Chu Luiwei had actually won the first match of the Qingjiao competition against Lei Mingwei. A Stage 1 warrior had defeated a Stage 4 warrior. Even though they had witnessed everything with their own eyes, and Lei Mingwei was still unconscious on the ground, this fact was too shocking. Even after a while, everyone was still immersed in the stifling silence. We won. Luiwei, I knew you were a good person. Suddenly, an excited shriek could be heard. Mu Hongyu had already jumped up from her seat, and her heart was overflowing with joy. Beautifully done. This shout immediately made everyone from Tianlu Academy react. They won. Chu Luiwei won. Didn't that mean that Tianlu Academy won? Joyous cheers immediately erupted like boiling water. We won. We won. We won the first match beautifully. Oh my God, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I definitely wouldn't believe that a Stage 1 warrior could defeat a Stage 4 warrior. Ha! Chu Luiwei had defeated Chu Xianmin, who was a Stage 3 warrior, back then. Now that he had defeated a Stage 4 warrior, it was normal. Ha! Previously, I thought it was a coincidence that she got first place in the warrior tournament, but now, I'm convinced. Although they didn't know much about Chu Luiwei before, and even had some prejudices against her, now that she had won, she had brought honor to the academy. They were also basking in the glory, so they were naturally overjoyed. And ever since Chu Luiwei had entered the academy, the faint doubts that existed towards her had completely dissipated after this beautiful match. Being able to win against a rank 3 warrior might be due to luck, but to be able to win against a rank 4 warrior, and an intermediate one at that, it definitely proved her strength. Chu Xianmin clenched her teeth as she listened to the heated cheers. She wished that she was the one standing in the arena. Her hand unconsciously touched her neck, and the rough scar reminded her that the current Chu Luwe was no longer the person she used to bully in the past. A sense of helplessness suddenly surged in her heart. She actually didn't know when Chu Luwe had caught up to her and even left her far behind. The entire Tian Lu Academy was celebrating. Only the small area at the front of the academy was a little different. Rong Jin was there. The people sitting next to him all lowered their heads, hoping to minimize their presence as much as possible. Everyone knew that Chu Luwe was once Rong Jin's fiancé, and he was the one who initiated the cancellation of the marriage agreement. But in the blink of an eye, not only was Chu Luwe not a good-for-nothing, but she had also become the most dazzling genius. Who would be happy after encountering such a thing? Rong Jin looked at the young girl in the arena with mixed feelings. She seemed to have heard the cheers as she turned around and flashed a bright smile. She was beautiful and as bright as the sun. That was all. Rong Jin's heart seemed to have been hit hard by something. He heard something in the depths of his heart sinking. It seemed to indicate some kind of danger, but he was helpless. If their engagement was still in place, then her smile would only belong to him alone. Realizing what he was thinking, Rong Jin suddenly recovered his senses and shook his head, wanting to get rid of this thought. But for some reason, that thought became more and more profound. Elder Sun stroked his beard comfortingly, and a huge rock in his heart was finally put down. Lu Yu had never disappointed anyone before. No wonder Uncle Master, who never wanted to take in a disciple, wanted to cherish her talent. Isn't it Master's fortune to have such a disciple? He laughed out loud. Lu Yu, the first match is over. Go and rest. Your name will be put back in the box. There might be a second, third, or even more matches later on. Prepare well. Chu Luwe smiled until her eyes turned into crescents. Yes, thank you, Elder Sun. After saying that, she walked towards her dagger with light steps. After taking a few steps, she turned back and said to Tai Yen Academy's people, I didn't use too much strength. By the way, I held back a little when I kicked him just now, so it won't be fatal. You just have to take him away and let him rest for half a month. The Qing Jiao competition has always been about stopping before going too far. Friendship comes first, competition comes second. I remember that. Her words almost made Tai Yen Academy's people vomit blood. You didn't use too much strength. You've already heard him like that, and you still have the cheek to say that? Friendship comes first, competition comes second? It's all nonsense. The crowd's expressions changed unpredictably. It was very interesting. Previously, they all said that they would definitely win this match, but this was the outcome. It was like a slap to their faces. Cheng Han's face no longer had the sage-like aura from before. Instead, it was filled with anger. Go and bring Lei Mingwei back. Please. The people at the side hurriedly went forward and carried Lei Mingwei down dejectedly. Tai Yin Academy's side was in awkward silence. Sun Zhongyan cupped his fists at Cheng Han and laughed. Brother Cheng Han, thank you for going easy on us. The start of the competition is already so exciting. I'm sure this year's Qing Jiao competition will be even more exciting. Don't you think so? Cheng Han felt as if he had just swallowed a fly, and he was extremely disgusted. Sun Zhongyan was obviously showing off. However, he could not refute him. After all, they had lost. Brother Zhongyan is right. The best part is yet to come. After all, Cheng Han was used to seeing big scenes. At this time, a smile appeared on his face, and he politely returned the greeting. Sun Zhongyan could hear the faint disdain and threat in his words, but he did not take it seriously. Losing so badly in the first round would definitely affect their morale later on. It was impossible for Tai Yin Academy to be as glorious as last year. Chu Luwe walked over and bent down to pull out the dagger. She raised her brows slightly when she saw the crack on the ground. This dagger that Rong Xiu personally made is really good. It seems to be stronger than I expected. Chu Luwe kept the dagger and walked down the stage. On the other side, Sidu Xingqian's eyes widened when she saw the faint pattern on the dagger. That dagger is digression. Today, Xiaoxiang's platform will be merged into the company, so from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., you can't log in to the author's platform or upload your chapters. Thus, the remaining 3 chapters will be updated at 6 p.m., and will be updated as soon as possible in February. Love mobile users, please continue reading. Chapter 202. Situ Xingqian stood up uncontrollably and stared at the dagger in Chu Liyue's hand. Xingqian, what's wrong? Beside her, Cheng Han looked at her in surprise. He rarely saw such an expression on Situ Xingqian's face. Situ Xingqian suddenly snapped out of her daze and glanced at Cheng Han. She then realized that she had lost her composure and hurriedly sat back down. And nothing. Cheng Han is my mentor and knows me the best. How can it be nothing? What are you looking at? Cheng Han followed her gaze and saw Chu Liyue's back view as he walked down the stage. He furrowed his brows slightly. That Chu Liyue is a little weird. Did you see anything? Situ Xingqian knew that her mentor and she were talking about different things, but she could not explain it now. She could only hide it and smile. No, I'm just a little surprised. That dagger seemed to have been nailed into the ground. The white jade is very hard, and normal objects can't even leave a mark on it. I didn't expect Chu Liyue to have such a sharp dagger. It shouldn't be an ordinary dagger. Cheng Han felt that it made sense and stroked his beard. You're right. Chu Liyue is just a stage 1 warrior, but she managed to block Lei Mingwei's attack just now. Her dagger should have helped a lot. It's just that she attacked too quickly just now, and we're quite far away, so I couldn't see anything. If I have the chance, I might be able to see something if I take a closer look. Cheng Han was confused when he saw that Situ Xingqian was still a little distracted. Xingqian, you're a celestial physician, and she's a warrior. Even if it's a competition, the two of you won't meet. Why do you seem so concerned about that dagger? Situ Xingqian forced a smile. I was just curious. Mentor, you don't have to worry. Cheng Han then nodded. This disciple of his came from a noble background and was very talented. There was nothing bad about her. Perhaps she was just curious about such a small matter. Chu Liyue walked down the stage and was warmly welcomed by Tianlu Academy's crowd. She finally returned to her seat with much difficulty and gently exhaled. Phew. Everyone is too passionate. Hee, Liu, you are now a big shot in our academy. Si Yang hurried forward with a look of worship. That Lei Mingwei is a mid-stage 4th order warrior, and you actually defeated him. You're really something. Originally, they all thought that they would lose this match. Who would have thought that Chu Liyue would win? He had forcefully won back the academy's face. Chu Liyue could not help but laugh. Is it that exaggerated? Of course. If you don't believe me, you can ask my boss. Si Yang paused in the middle of his sentence. When he saw his elder brother's calm expression, he wanted to bite off his own tongue. Si Ting did not feel uncomfortable and nodded at Chu Liyue. Congratulations. Chu Liyue also smiled faintly. Thank you. In any case, the words had already been spoken, so it wasn't a big deal. Si Yang saw that the two of them didn't seem to be very awkward, so he heaved a sigh of relief and quickly changed the topic. Don't you know? The victory or defeat of the first round of the Qingjiao competition will greatly affect the rest of the competition. No matter what, you had a good start. Of course, everyone is convinced by you. Chu Liyue didn't take this matter to heart, and her lips curled up. This is just the beginning. The following matches will only be more brutal. And she was the one who had the highest chance of being picked. However, if she wanted to get first place, this process was obviously necessary. She had to recover her force first. The second round was between Tai Yan Academy and Nanfeng Academy. Tai Yan Academy's opponent was a tall and skinny young man, Jia Yiming. As for Nanfeng Academy's opponent, it was a tall girl with a cold appearance, Lu Yining. Both of them were third-order warriors, so they were considered to be evenly matched. The people from Tai Yan Academy became more and more nervous. They only hoped that they would win this time. They had already lost badly enough in the first round. If they lost the second round as well, they would really be embarrassed. On the other hand, the people from Nanfeng Academy were happy to see Tai Yan Academy make a fool of themselves. They were eager to win this round and ruthlessly step on Tai Yan Academy's face. Both parties went up the stage. The atmosphere was tense, and a fight was about to break out. Tian Lu Academy's side finally quietened down, and their attention shifted to the competition. Chu Luiwei then felt more relaxed. She shifted her gaze and looked at Tai Yen Academy with narrowed eyes. When she went down the stage just now, she clearly felt an unusual gaze. If I'm not wrong, it seems to be Situ Xingqian. Chu Luiwei looked down and flipped the dagger in her hand. It was light, bright, and extremely sharp. There were a few peach blossoms carved on the handle. Rong Xiu seemed to like peach blossoms. The hairpin he gave me earlier was also a peach blossom hairpin. The same pattern was carved on this dagger. Actually, if one didn't look closely, they wouldn't be able to see the pattern clearly. However, Situ Xingqian seemed to be looking at this dagger just now. That's right. Situ Xingqian's clothes also have the same cloud pattern embroidered on them. Chu Luiwei pondered for a while and suddenly smiled. Interesting. She collected her thoughts and looked at the competition venue again. The second round of the competition was going on intensely. Of course, to her, there was no point in using it as a reference. After looking at it for a while, she decisively closed her eyes, held her breath, and started to meditate. Hey, Liu, did you see how Lu Yinin attacked just now? When he didn't hear Chu Luiwei's reply, he turned around and saw that she was actually, no way. She can cultivate now. Si Yang's eyes twitched. The surroundings are so noisy, and Chu Luiwei just finished a round, yet she's actually continuing to cultivate. He was about to say something, but when he saw that Si Ting seemed to be meditating, he obediently shut his mouth. Geniuses are indeed different from ordinary people. Perhaps it was because Chu Luiwei and Lei Mingwei's first round was too exciting, so the second round was much more ordinary. The two of them were equally skilled, and the battle was in a stalemate. After fighting for a long time, Jia Yiming's force was almost depleted, and he finally revealed a flaw. Lu Yinin seized the opportunity and sent him out of the arena. Lu Yinin won the second round. Tai Yen Academy lost another round. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 203. They lost 2 rounds consecutively in the first 2 rounds. This had never happened to Tai Yen Academy in all these years. When the judges announced that Nanfeng Academy's Lu Yinin was the winner, the atmosphere in Tai Yen Academy froze. Cheng Han could no longer maintain his smile, and the aura around him froze. The students behind him did not even dare to breathe loudly. They were so glorious last year. How could they have expected to face such a situation? However, the lot drawing method was very fair, and nobody could cheat. Hence, they could not even find a reason for their failure. When Situ Xingqian saw this, she softly advised, "Master, it's just a matter of time. Master, the Qingjiao competition has just begun. We were just unlucky. It's actually a good thing that the truly capable people stayed behind." Upon hearing this, Cheng Han's expression finally looked better. That's right. It's not like we don't have anyone. Just Situ Xingqian alone is much better than us. This time I have high hopes for her. I want her to get first place in the Celestial Physician competition. Don't worry. I know what to do. In the Warrior, Shen Master, and Celestial Physician competitions, first place in the Warrior competition was the least important. Even if they did not have an advantage in the Warrior competition, as long as they could get first place in the Celestial Physician competition, they would be able to redeem themselves. Let's just wait patiently. Situ Xingqian nodded. The Warrior competition was still going on. At first, Chu Luiwei was worried that her name would be picked again. Luckily, there were many people participating in the Warrior competition, so the chances of her being picked again were not high. In actual fact, she did not go up again until evening, when the first day of the Qingjiao competition ended. This gave her more time to cultivate in peace. After a whole day of competition, the 3 academies all had their wins and losses. However, after a rough calculation, Tian Lu Academy, which was the least favored, had won the most. On the other hand, the previously arrogant Tai Yen Academy lost consecutively and was completely defeated in the end. Some were happy, while others were sad. The Qingjiao competition usually lasted for 5 days. The first 3 days were for the Warrior competition. The fourth day was for the Xian Master competition, and the last day was for the Celestial Physician competition. On the first day, almost half of the warriors had already gone up to the stage to compete, leaving only a few who had not yet gone up and those who had won. After the temporary end of the competition, the three academies brought their students back to rest and prepare for the next day. Chu Luiyue also followed the crowd back to the academy. Walking on the bridge of Shuangqing River, Chu Luiyue almost subconsciously looked at Yifeng Courtyard. The fence of the courtyard was closed, the gate was locked, and there was no one in the courtyard. I don't know what Rong Xiao is busy with. Chu Luiyue thought of the cloud pattern on Situ Xingqian's clothes and raised his eyebrows. She had almost forgotten that His Highness Prince Li had not been in the imperial capital for many years. Moreover, he had hidden many secrets. She retracted her gaze and walked towards her residence. Just as she walked into the courtyard, she immediately realized that something was wrong, and alarm bells rang in her heart. She quickly scanned her surroundings and retreated without hesitation, intending to leave immediately. However, before she could turn around, she saw a black shadow approaching quickly. The person grabbed her wrists and quickly tied them up with a rope. The dangerous aura made Chu Luiyue's heart skip a beat. This person is very strong. I'm definitely not his match now. Without waiting for her to look up and see the other party's face clearly, that person had already brought her to the door. The door that she had locked properly when she left suddenly opened from the inside. The person behind used force and pushed Chu Luiyue inside. Chu Luiyue's wrists were tied behind her back, and she staggered and almost fell to the ground. She finally stabilized herself with much difficulty, but she heard a bang behind her. The other party actually locked the door again. Sensing that there was someone else in the room, Chu Luiyue immediately looked up. She was shocked when she saw who it was. Sitting leisurely in the room and looking at her arrogantly, who else could it be but the fourth princess, Rong Zhen? Rong Zhen? Why are you here? Rong Zhen's face revealed a tinge of displeasure. Who are you to call my name? Chu Luiyue's mind raced. According to Rong Zhen's temper, she would definitely flare up if she called her that. But now, she actually only reprimanded her. It was obvious that she had other motives. Many guesses flashed across Chu Luiyue's mind, but she didn't show it on her face. Fourth princess, please forgive me. I was just too shocked. May I know why you're here today? Rong Zhen glanced at her. Of course, I'm here for something important. Chu Luiyue looked down and smiled. Fourth princess, if you have something to say, you can just tell me directly. Why do you have to do this? You've always been sly. I don't trust you. Rong Zhen still clearly remembered the scene when Chu Luiyue handed over the bloody pearl of essence at the crown prince's birthday banquet. That thick, dirty, bloody smell seemed to still linger around her nose, making her feel disgusted. Chu Luiyue paused. She could clearly feel that the person who had just taken her in was standing behind her. She wasn't that person's match. If she acted rashly, she would only put herself in more danger. She simply controlled her curiosity to turn around and stared at Rong Zhen. Fourth princess, just say what you want to say. I came to find you personally for one thing. Rong Zhen lifted her chin slightly, looking even more arrogant than before. You were born with a damaged yuan meridian, but you suddenly recovered some time ago and even became a so-called genius. What did you rely on? Chu Luiyue understood. It was indeed because of this. She had already expected that Rong Zhen would make a move on her, but she didn't expect it to take so long. As long as you tell me who helped you and helped me recover my pearl of essence, I can let bygones be bygones. Rong Zhen's tone was high and mighty as if she was giving alms. Chu Luiyue looked at her quietly. Rong Zhen was annoyed by her gaze and raised her voice. What are you looking at? I was just thinking that the fourth princess is here to ask for my help. If I didn't hear you clearly, I would have thought that you were here for revenge. Chu Luiyue chuckled. Rong Zhen's face instantly turned cold. How dare you mock me? I don't dare. It's not easy for the fourth princess to leave the palace, so you must have been waiting here. However, I'm afraid I can't help you with what you're asking for. What did you say? Rong Zhen stood up angrily. Chu Luiyue could clearly see that her legs were strange when she walked. It was obvious that she had broken her leg previously and hadn't recovered. B***, were you looking at? Sensing Chu Liyue's gaze on her legs, Rong Zhen's face flushed red. She immediately raised her hand and slapped Chu Liyue harshly. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 204. Fourth Princess, didn't you come here today because of the broken pearl of essence? Asked Chu Liyue suddenly. Rong Zhen's hand stopped in midair as she looked at Chu Liyue in shock. You really have someone behind you. She knew that Chu Liyue was born with a damaged yuan meridian and became a genius overnight after being a loser for more than 10 years. This wasn't something that she could do alone. Tell me who it is. Back then, all the celestial physician in country Yaochen couldn't do anything about Chu Liyue's damaged yuan meridian, but isn't she fine now? Then, as long as I find that person, her damaged pearl of essence will definitely recover. Chu Liyue looked at the anxious Rong Zhen and sneered in her heart. A damaged pearl of essence was worse than a damaged yuan meridian. If one had a damaged yuan meridian, then one could just not cultivate. However, the pearl of essence was closely connected to the cultivator. Once it was damaged, it would have a huge impact on the cultivator. The most direct example was that when the pearl of essence was damaged, the entire dantian would be damaged as well. Without a complete dantian, it was impossible to rebuild the pearl of essence even if one went to heaven or hell. It was even more impossible for one to cultivate. Rong Zhen's current situation was clearly like this. If it were her in her previous life, she wouldn't be helpless. But now, she couldn't do it. Even if she could, she wouldn't help Rong Zhen. Chu Liyue looked away and seemed hesitant. It's hard to say. Seeing her like this, Rong Zhen was certain that Chu Liyue definitely knew someone but just didn't want to tell her. Tell me. As long as my pearl of essence recovers, you'll benefit from it. Chu Liyue wanted to laugh when she heard this. Rong Zhen is really spoiled. She actually thinks that she can seduce and threaten me with just a few simple sentences. Benefit? She didn't think that she was now a loser and had long lost Emperor Zhouwen's favor. In addition, the crown prince had been demoted recently, so the situation was even worse. She no longer had the right to be arrogant, but she still thought that she could flaunt her power. Chu Liyue pursed his lips. He seemed to have loosened up. Fourth Princess, it's not that I don't want to tell you. It's just that I don't know who that person is. Nonsense. Since that person cured you, how could you not know who that person is? Rong Zhen went forward and strangled Chu Liyue's neck with a sinister expression. How dare you trick me? Chu Liyue's eyes flashed with a trace of disgust. He restrained his impulse to avoid her actions and slightly moved his body to cushion her strength. Fourth Princess, please don't misunderstand. I'm telling the truth. Ahem. Actually, I haven't told anyone about this matter. If Fourth Princess wants to know, then I'll tell you. Cough cough. Seeing Chu Liyue's face turn red and start coughing, Rong Zhen harshly flung her away. Speak. Chu Liyue coughed a few more times before she calmed down and said intermittently, he said slowly, Fourth Princess, actually, this matter started from when Chu Xianmin sent someone to assassinate me. That day, she sent someone to capture me and bring me to the forest at the edge of the imperial city. Just when I thought I was dead, a man in a black robe suddenly appeared. I couldn't see the other party's figure or face, but from the voice, it seemed to be an old man. He saved me and even fed me a pill. I didn't know what it was back then, but when I returned, I discovered that the yuan meridian in my body had recovered. After that, Fourth Princess, you already know what happened after that. Rong Zhen frowned after hearing this. Are you telling the truth? You don't know that person, so why did he help you? Chu Liyue laughed bitterly. I don't know either. After that, I never saw him again. I wanted to thank him, but I couldn't find him. I'm telling the truth. If Fourth Princess doesn't believe me, then there's nothing I can do. There's no point in lying about such matters. Rong Zhen's expression changed, and she didn't say anything for a while. She kept thinking about Chu Liyue's words. Although it sounded too unbelievable, if that wasn't the case, how did Chu Liyue's yuan meridian recover? I remember that you bought a lot of herbs from Zhenbao Pavilion after you returned to the Chu family. What's up with those? Chu Liuyue's expression didn't change. After that person saved me, he left me a prescription. I didn't know what it was at first, but I realized later that it could be used to nourish my body. If you don't believe me, you can go to Zhenbao Pavilion and ask if it's true. I'm not going there. Rongzhen was furious at the mention of Zhenbao Pavilion. Something clearly happened at Zhenbao Pavilion's hunting ground, but father didn't have any intention of punishing them. She still couldn't take this lying down. She thought for a while and continued asking. Tell me where that person appeared at that time. Chu Luiyue knitted her brows. At that time, I was also knocked out and brought there, so I'm not too sure what happened. Hurry! Rongzhen kicked Chu Liuyue's abdomen. She pretended to shrink her body in fear, and the kick landed on her thigh. Chu Luiyue fell backward and hit the table. The teacup on the table fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. Rongzhen had already taken a pen and paper from the side and violently threw them at Chu Liuyue's face. Draw the location. If you can't draw it, don't think of leaving this door. A cold, murderous look flashed across Chu Liuyue's eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. Okay, I'll write it. As she spoke, she moved her wrists, which were tied behind her. But can you untie this first? Otherwise, Rongzhen shot a look at the person beside her. Chu Liuyue felt a cold touch on her wrists, and the ropes immediately loosened silently. She looked down and saw a red mark on her wrists. She picked up the pen and paper beside her and started drawing bit by bit. First, it was a lush forest, then a meandering river. Chu Liuyue lowered her head, so Rongzhen couldn't see her expression at all. Chu Liuyue's pen moved slowly, but the terrain of the forest outside the imperial city quickly flashed across her mind. After her rebirth, she had specially researched that forest. Finally, her pen stopped at a certain spot. If she didn't remember wrongly, this place seemed to be. She lightly tapped and left a heavy ink mark on the paper. It's here. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 205. Rongzhen picked up the piece of paper and took a closer look before frowning. She wasn't familiar with the terrain of the forest outside the imperial city, so she didn't know where the location was. However, it seemed rather remote. She pondered for a moment before looking at Chu Liuyue and scoffing. Don't think that this matter is over. After the Qingjiao competition ends, you will personally bring me there. Rongzhen wasn't stupid. She believed Chu Liuyue's random drawing of a location for her. Who knew if she was telling the truth? Chu Liuyue rubbed her wrist and looked calm. Whatever you say, fourth princess. Rongzhen saw that Rongzhen didn't seem to be lying. Furthermore, she agreed to go with her, so she believed her a little. She glanced at the man in black beside her. Let's go. With that, the two of them left together. Chu Liuyue turned around and saw a blurry figure disappearing into the night. If she didn't sense wrongly, the man in black used his own strength to conceal the two of them. No wonder he dared to barge into the academy so boldly. Chu Liuyue's gaze darkened. That person's ability was at least an intermediate stage 5 warrior. There were very few people in country Yaochen who had such ability. Rongzhen could mobilize people. A few suspicious names surfaced in her mind, but she couldn't confirm them because she didn't see that person's appearance or figure. I should find some time to investigate. What happened that night didn't attract anyone's attention. The next morning, Chu Liuyue and the others headed to Jianan Square as usual. Compared to the previous day, there were more people in the square, and the atmosphere was more lively. The later the competition, the more exciting it was, so there were naturally more people who wanted to watch. Chu Liuyue attracted a lot of attention the moment she arrived. Countless gazes landed on her. She could vaguely hear many people discussing the battle between her and Lei Mingwei yesterday. Mu Hongyu nudged Chu Liuyue with her elbow. Liuyu, you've become famous in one battle. Now, even people from Huaicang and Xingluo have heard of your name, let alone the imperial city. A stage 1 warrior defeating a stage 4 warrior. Such a battle record was enough to make people gasp in awe. Chu Liuyue was very calm. The competition just started. The rest of the match is up. That's right. Almost half of the contestants had been eliminated yesterday. Today, the contestants who had won yesterday would definitely be drawn. Yesterday's match wasn't satisfying at all. Hopefully, I can meet someone interesting today. Mu Hongyu had picked a third-stage warrior from Tai Yen Academy yesterday. She had won without much effort, so she was itching for a fight. Chu Lue smiled. Now that you're a rank 4 warrior, your horizons are naturally different. Mu Hongyu giggled. Don't I have to thank you? If you didn't lend me those 40 hours, I wouldn't have been able to break through so quickly. Hongyu, the competition is about to start. Come quickly. Sen Hu, who was seated not far away, waved at Mu Hongyu. Mu Hongyu replied, Then I'll get going first. Chu Lue nodded and walked in another direction. She was sitting in the Xian master's seat now, so she naturally didn't sit with them. As Chu Lue walked, many people greeted her warmly. After yesterday's battle, Chu Lue was in the limelight in the academy. Many people changed their views of her and became closer to her. Chu Lue greeted them one by one before sitting down. But she still felt a little strange in her heart. In the past, she was the heavenly princess and had a distinguished status. Even the other princesses and princes were especially respectful to her, let alone others. At first, she felt that everyone was not close to her and was a little disappointed. However, she gradually understood many things and didn't force it. She felt that the current situation was a little strange, but she didn't hate it. She even felt a little happy. She could feel that these people really admired her, which was why they were treating her like this. It seemed that the Qingjiao competition was indeed an extremely important event to them. She looked around. Tianlu Academy's morale was high, and Nanfeng Academy looked like they were full of fighting spirit. On the other hand, Tai Yen Academy's dispirited atmosphere from the previous day had unexpectedly disappeared. Although they weren't as ostentatious as before, they seemed to have reinvigorated themselves. The competition continued very quickly. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the crowd. Chu Lue looked over and realized that it was because someone from Nanfeng Academy stood up. It was a scholarly young man with a slender figure and an elegant aura. That person was Nanfeng Academy's representative, Jiang Yuan. It's actually Jiang Yuan. He was ranked 10th in the warrior competition last year. I'm afraid he's even stronger this year. I heard that he was only a stage 3 warrior last year, but his actual combat power was comparable to a stage 4 warrior. This year, he became a beginner stage 4 warrior. We can't underestimate him. Do you still remember the situation back then? This Jiang Yuan looked refined and polite, but once he entered the arena, it was as if he had turned into a completely different person. If we go up against him, I heard that he's aiming for first place. I really don't know who's so unlucky to go up against him now. Hearing the discussions around her, Chu Lue gradually understood what was going on. No wonder everyone had such a reaction. Jiang Yuan was the person with the highest ranking since the start of the Qingjiao competition. Even Lei Mingwei, who was an intermediate stage 4 warrior, was ranked lower than him. This showed how powerful Jiang Yuan was. If they went up against him now, they would most likely be eliminated. Jiang Yuan calmly walked to the box, took out a paper ball and opened it. When he saw the name on it, he was slightly stunned. Then he smiled, opened the paper ball, and looked at Tianlu Academy. Looks like my luck is really good. I actually drew the biggest dark horse this year. Once he said that, everyone understood who he was talking about. Chu Lue looked over and indeed saw her name clearly written on the paper ball. Her lips curled up as she stood up. She should say that her luck was good. She drew Lei Mingwei, who was an intermediate stage 4 warrior. When the other person drew her, it was also an unpredictable strong warrior. When everyone saw the confrontation between the two of them, they were shocked and then excited. They never expected that the dark horse last year and this year's dark horse would meet so quickly. Both of them had abilities that exceeded their own levels. If they really fought, they really didn't know what the situation would be like. Jiang Yuan smiled. Please, Chu Lue's lips curled up. Then, please enlighten me. Digression. After the backend merged and upgraded, Xiaoxiang's update would be delayed and could not display digressions. It was not known if it could be fixed today. Therefore, it will continue to be updated in February. As for when it will be displayed, it will depend on God's will. Crying, mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 206. The two of them went on stage and faced each other. Everyone stared at the scene nervously and excitedly. Even though Jiang Yuan is only a stage 4 warrior now, he's definitely stronger than Lei Mingwei. I think Chu Luiwei is doomed this time. I think so too. Even though she's strong, Jiang Yuan is also a tough nut to crack. I'm afraid that the dark horse of this year's Qing Jiao competition will come to an end. What a pity! I originally wanted to watch her compete a few more times. I thought that she could get a good ranking this year, but it's most likely impossible now. I heard that she used to be a good-for-nothing and only became famous in the past few months. Thinking about it, her cultivation speed is terrifying. The crowd discussed fervently. An inexplicable frustration flashed across Situ Xingqian's heart as she listened. Ever since she saw the dagger yesterday, she paid extra attention to Chu Luiwei. Now that she was going on stage again, she naturally paid close attention to her. Situ Xingqian had never heard of this name before, but when she went back yesterday, she secretly asked around. This Chu Luiwei is indeed unusual. She could not help but lean closer to Cheng Han and ask softly, "Mentor, is it possible for someone who was born with a damaged Yuan meridian to recover their Yuan meridian and embark on the path of cultivation?" Cheng Han knitted his brows. "You're talking about Chu Luiwei?" He had also heard some things about Chu Luiwei yesterday, so he immediately guessed it when he heard Situ Xingqian's question. Situ Xingqian nodded lightly. Cheng Han stroked his beard. "Speaking of which, it's indeed quite impossible. However, there are so many strong people in this world. If someone of that level were to make a move, it might be possible." Situ Xingqian instantly understood what he meant. No matter if it was country Yaochen, country Huaicang, or country Xingluo, they were all existences of the same level. And above them, there was an unreachable colossus. Even if she was the eldest princess of country Xingluo, she was as lowly as an ant in front of those people. But she's just an ordinary daughter of a rich family in country Yaochen. How can she do this? This was what Situ Xingqian couldn't figure out the most. Chu Luiwei's family background was not bad. However, the Chu family declined and her father was seriously injured, so he could no longer cultivate. In fact, she could no longer be considered a so-called noble lady. With her status, how did she recover her Yuan meridian and become a genius? Cheng Han pondered for a long time. Perhaps she had other opportunities. Or perhaps, this kind of thing is impossible to say. Situ Xingqian bit her lips. Cheng Han saw that there was something wrong with her expression and comforted her. "Xingqian, no matter how powerful she is, she doesn't have the qualifications to compete with you. Why do you have to take her to heart?" Situ Xingqian forced a smile. "Master, don't misunderstand. I'm just curious." Cheng Han nodded and did not think too much about it. Situ Xingqian slowly clenched her fists in her sleeves. Lucky chance or talent aside, what about the dagger? On the stage, Jiang Yuan studied Chu Luiwei curiously. He had watched her and Lei Mingwei's match yesterday very carefully. This woman did indeed possess extraordinary combat strength. Whether it was her movements or her moves, they all showed that she had rich combat experience. "Pardon me for asking, but I heard that you only started cultivating a few months ago?" Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows but did not deny it. "That's right. Anyway, the entire imperial city knew about this." Jiang Yuan's gaze changed and became more serious. "Who can cultivate to the point where they can go against a stage 4 warrior in just a few months? Chu Luiwei is indeed a worthy opponent. She will definitely become a top warrior in the future." Seeing the change in Jiang Yuan's expression, Chu Luiwei also narrowed her eyes and secretly circulated the force in her body. Her muscles tensed up, and she instantly entered battle mode. Lei Mingwei lost because of his arrogance, but Jiang Yuan was not that easy to deal with. She flipped her wrist and held the dagger in her hand. Jiang Yuan smiled. It seems like Chu Luiwei intends to go all out with me. This is good too. Please. Then he closed his eyes and opened them again. It was as if he had changed into a different person. The gentle smile on his face faded, and he looked colder. His eyes were as sharp as knives. The next moment, the force around his body surged. Beginner stage 4. Everyone was shocked. Jiang Yuan used his full strength right from the start? Seems like he values Chu Luiwei a lot. He doesn't dare to be careless. Actually, this is normal. Everyone saw Chu Luiwei's strength yesterday. If Jiang Yuan still dares to be arrogant, he will be at a disadvantage like Lei Mingwei. Chu Luiwei is stage 1 warrior who can continuously challenge 2 stage 4 warriors, win against one, and make the other go all out. Even if she loses this match, Chu Luiwei's reputation will still soar after the Qing Jiao competition. Jiang Yuan formed a circle with his hands in front of him, and a ball of light green force gradually gathered. A faint pressure spread out from it. Chu Luiwei stared at Jiang Yuan and became more alert. The force in her body circulated quickly. The next moment, she tiptoed and dashed toward Jiang Yuan. The audience was in an uproar. They didn't expect Chu Luiwei to be the first to attack. She knew she was weaker than Jiang Yuan, but she still dared to charge forward. Was she looking for death? In the blink of an eye, Chu Luiwei was only 3 steps away from Jiang Yuan. But at this moment, Jiang Yuan suddenly retreated. He avoided Chu Luiwei. The distance between the two of them increased again. Chu Luiwei's heart sank. What's going on? Why did Jiang Yuan retreat? Is he afraid of Chu Luiwei? The crowd was in an uproar. However, the expressions of Sun Zhongyan and the others, who were watching the battle below, gradually turned grave. Jiang Yuan is indeed cautious. He knows that Lu Yu is good at close combat, so he chose to avoid him. Actually, with his strength, he would have the upper hand even if the two of them were to engage in close combat. But he didn't want to take the risk. He was determined to defeat Chu Luiwei with long-range attacks. Chu Luiwei's biggest weakness was that he couldn't direct his force outward. From the very beginning, he had been adamant on this point. He's determined to win this match. Chu Luiwei knew what Jiang Yuan was planning when he saw him retreat. He was strong and cautious. Such an opponent was indeed difficult to deal with. Moreover, there was a huge gap between the two of them. Chu Luiwei thought quickly and chased after him again. Jiang Yuan retreated again. Chu Luiwei quickly realized that Jiang Yuan's speed was about the same as his. It was obvious that he couldn't rely on his speed to get close to Jiang Yuan. Thinking of this, Chu Luiwei stopped and gripped the dagger in his hand. At this moment, a giant green ice ball had formed in front of Jiang Yuan. A chilling aura was emitted from it. Ghost Eye Heavenly Ice. With this shout, the green ice ball flew towards Chu Luiwei. Wherever it passed, a thin layer of frost condensed on the ground. The biting cold air rushed towards Jiang Yuan. Digression. The new platform is making me depressed. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 207. Chu Luiwei retreated quickly and threw the dagger in her hand. The sharp dagger pierced the ice ball. Ice shards flew everywhere. However, the power of the ice ball was extremely strong, and the dagger was only able to pierce half of it before it stopped. It was stuck in the ice ball, unable to move forward or backward. Moreover, the ice ball only stopped for a moment before it came for Chu Luiwei again. Her attack against Jiang Yuan's was like an ant trying to shake a tree. Chu Luiwei retreated again. However, the ice ball was also very fast and kept coming. Everyone had different expressions when they saw the situation. Sun Zhongyan shook his head. Jiang Yuan is indeed very strong and smart. Lu Yu doesn't have any advantage in this match. I'm afraid he was going to lose. The others looked at each other. Elder son, you don't have to worry too much. Even if he loses, Lu Yu's ability is obvious to all. Yeah, she's just a rank 1 warrior. It's already very rare for her to be able to fight above her level. Sun Zhongyan pondered for a moment and didn't say anything, but his eyes were still fixed on the arena. Did Elder Sun think that Chu Luiyue still had a chance of winning? The people behind him exchanged glances, feeling a little helpless. Even if Chu Luiyue was very talented, it was impossible for him to win against Jiang Yuan with his current ability, right? Why did Elder Sun have such high expectations for Chu Luiyue? Chu Luiyue dodged quickly, but the ice ball kept coming closer. The distance between the two was shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the ground, the frost created by the ice ball reflected a piercing cold light under the sunlight. It was a frightening sight. Over at Nanfeng Academy, everyone had a confident smile on their faces. This Ghost Eye Heavenly Ice is the first skill that Jiang Yuan learned after he became a rank 4 warrior. It's also one of his most powerful trump cards. Now that he's using this skill right from the start, Chu Luiyue won't lose out. Yeah. Jiang Yuan is usually humble and gentle, but he's very decisive in the arena. He's definitely going to win this match. However, Chu Luiyue's dagger is pretty good. It actually pierced the ice ball. You have to know that when I sparred with Jiang Yuan earlier, I used the red tasseled spear made of refined iron. Even with my full strength, it only left a shallow scratch on the ice ball. That thing is a treasure. How else do you think Lei Mingwei lost yesterday? With that dagger, Chu Luiyue's combat ability. Now that the dagger is stuck in the ice ball, she is empty-handed and can't use her origin power. She is no match for Jiang Yuan. Look, Chu Luiyue is about to be caught by the ice ball. This competition should end very soon. Wait, what is Chu? The students who were teasing each other, they looked shocked, In the arena, the ice ball quickly closed in. It was only an arm's length away from Chu Luiyue's back. Once the ice ball hit, Chu Luiyue would definitely lose. Everyone thought they could see the result of the match. But just as they thought that Chu Luiyue was about to lose, she suddenly turned around and jumped onto the ice ball like a swallow. Is she crazy? The Ghost Eye Sky Ice is an extremely cold energy. Not only did she not dodge it, she jumped onto it. Does she think she can dodge it just like that? The energy in the ice ball is enough to make her suffer. The moment Chu Luiyue stepped onto the ice ball, she felt an extremely cold energy coming from the ice ball. It spread from her feet to her entire body. In the blink of an eye, her boots were covered with a thin layer of frost. If she didn't leave, she would definitely be frozen on the ice ball. Chu Luiyue quickly bent down and reached out her hand to grab the dagger that was stuck on the ice ball. Seeing this, the crowd was in an uproar. Chu Luiyue wants to take that dagger. Are you kidding me? Is this the time to care about such things? She probably won't have any moves to deal with Jiang Yuan once she leaves the dagger. But the dagger is stuck in the ice ball, and the cold energy has already frozen it. Chu Luiyue can't take it out at all. She'll only lose faster if she does this, right? When Qing Han saw this, he couldn't help but chuckle. She's indeed stupid. She actually wants to use a dagger to turn the tables? Situ Xingqian clenched her fists tightly and watched the situation in the arena without blinking. Others might think that Chu Luiyue was dreaming, but she didn't think so. It's a dagger. Chu Luiyue naturally didn't know about the noises and reactions from the outside world. At this moment, all her attention was placed on the dagger. The handle of the dagger was already covered with a layer of frost, and her hand was stuck to it the moment she touched it. The extreme coldness crazily spread from her palm to her entire body. Chu Luiyue's lips rapidly turned purplish, and her face was ghastly pale. She looked very scary, but her hands still tightly held onto the handle of the dagger. Then, a surge of red origin power surged out. It rapidly poured into the dagger. Then, she forcefully stepped on the ice ball and used the rebounding force to jump down. Gotcha! A crisp sound could be heard instantly. The onlookers were all stunned. That sound was, the ice ball cracked. Someone suddenly exclaimed in shock. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Everyone's gaze quickly gathered on the ice ball. As expected, a crack suddenly appeared at the spot where the dagger pierced the ice ball. As the ice ball was emerald green, many people didn't notice it immediately. But upon closer inspection, there was indeed a black crack around the dagger. There were countless cracks. Following the terrifying cracking sound, The crowd could clearly see that on the ice ball, with Chu Liyue's dagger as the center, numerous cracks were madly spreading. In an instant, they were all over the ice ball. It was as if it was covered with a layer of black spider webs. When Chu Liyue jumped onto the ice ball and held onto the dagger, Jiang Yuan already felt that something was wrong. He wanted to go forward, but it was already too late. Chu Liyue's movements were extremely fast, and her strength was extremely strong. She knew that her force couldn't be directed outwards, so she purposely waited for the ice ball to hit her and quickly poured her force into the dagger. She jumped down again, and with the help of gravity, she forcefully pulled the dagger out. It worked. Countless cracks appeared, and the dagger finally loosened. Chu Liyue didn't hesitate to stab the dagger even deeper. Boom! The power contained in the dagger instantly exploded. The gigantic ice ball also exploded along with it. Fine and sharp ice shards scattered in all directions. The terrifying impact threw Chu Liyue out. Her body flew out uncontrollably. She landed heavily on the ground. A thick smell of blood permeated between his lips and teeth. Almost at the same time, the ghost eye heavenly ice shattered. Jiang Yuan's body shook, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 208. Dead Silence. No one would have thought that the match between Jiang Yuan and Chu Liyue would turn out like this. Chu Liyue had actually withstood Jiang Yuan's full force attack. It looked like Chu Liyue was about to lose, but in the blink of an eye, the situation had changed. Not only was Chu Liyue not eliminated, she had even injured Jiang Yuan. Even though her own situation wasn't good, she relied on her own strength to forcefully drag out the disparity in strength between the two sides into a tie. Even if both sides were injured, Chu Liyue was still the winner. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chu Liyue, who was in extreme pain, slowly stood up. She swallowed the blood in her throat and looked at her palm. Her right hand, which was holding the dagger, had been frostbitten. Because she had forcefully pulled the dagger out, her palm, which was stuck to the dagger, had been torn apart. It was now a bloody mess. The red, sticky blood slowly froze into ice crystals, which fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Chu Liyue raised her eyes and looked in front of her. Jiang Yuan had just caught his breath. When he met Chu Liyue's gaze, his heart skipped a beat. That pair of bright eyes was now burning with a crazed desire to fight. She was covered in wounds, but she did not seem to care. There was only one thought in her mind. Jiang Yuan's heart was in turmoil. Yesterday, when she fought with Lei Mingwei, he saw it clearly. He had thought that he knew her well enough, but he had underestimated her willpower. When the ghost eye heavenly ice exploded, Chu Liyue was right beside him. The terrifying impact had sent her flying. Jiang Yuan believed that her injuries would not be any better than his. Her right hand was frostbitten, so she could not use it. But her expression was so calm, as if she did not feel the pain at all. Was this really a 14-year-old girl? Such a valiant will to fight, even he was secretly amazed. Do you want to continue? Jiang Yuan asked as he looked at Chu Liyue's right hand. Chu Liyue's expression did not change. He switched the dagger to his left hand and slowly tightened his grip. Why not? I haven't won yet, so I naturally have to continue. Jiang Yuan took a deep breath. Since that's the case, take this. Before he had even finished speaking, he circulated the origin power around his body. He opened his palm, and the green origin power quickly condensed into a long spear. The tip of the spear was diamond-shaped and extremely sharp. Then, his figure flashed and he charged towards Chu Liyue. Chu Liyue's gaze gradually turned cold, and a trace of killing intent flashed through his eyes. On the Tianlu Academy's side, before they could even heave a sigh of relief, they watched Jiang Yuan make his move. Oh no, an inch longer is an inch stronger. Jiang Yuan was an expert in guns? Then wouldn't Lu Yu be at a disadvantage? Mu Hongyu could not help but murmur. Xin Hu's eyes widened. Not necessarily. Lu Yu is so awesome. Mu Hongyu was anxious and worried. But she's already injured. and she can only use her left hand now. That Jiang Yuan is obviously not easy to deal with. Lu Yu is going all out. Sen Hu replied with a question. If it were you, would you surrender now? Mu Hongyu took a deep breath. Of course not. Then, Lu Yu would definitely not surrender. Clang. The two of them engaged in close combat. When Jiang Yuan's long spear was about to pierce her, Chu Liyue's waist flashed, and she actually dodged the attack with her waist. Then, she stabbed her left hand at an extremely strange angle and slashed the long spear. Unexpectedly, the long spear was extremely tough. Chu Liyue's attack did not break it. The spear bent exaggeratedly and then rebounded with a huge force. Chu Liyue's wrist trembled, and her hand was pushed away. She staggered backward. Jiang Yuan followed closely behind her. He went straight for Chu Liyue's left shoulder. Now that her right hand was basically crippled, as long as her left arm could not attack, this match would be over. Chu Liyue blocked the attack with her dagger. Clang. The sound of weapons clashing was extremely ear-piercing. Chu Liyue gritted her teeth, raised her arm, and attacked the tip of the spear with her dagger. It scraped the body of the spear. Sparks flew everywhere. Jiang Yuan was shocked. Looking at the speed and strength of her counterattack, Chu Liyue clearly knew how to use a spear. But she did not show it at all before this. This Chu Liyue really hid her strength well. I didn't expect you to be so well-versed in spear techniques. But today, I must win this match. As Jiang Yuan spoke, he infused the rest of his force into the long spear. King of 10,000 spears. Buzz. The long spear vibrated violently. The next moment, multiple spear shadows appeared around it. Chu Liyue's heart sank. This was Jiang Yuan's real trump card. She could still deal with the Ghost Eye Heavenly Ice earlier, but this time, she was in danger. Because those spear shadows were not illusions. They were all illusions created by Jiang Yuan's force. Most importantly, the force of those shadows was not any weaker than the one in his hand. Go! Jiang Yuan shouted and threw the long spear in his hand. At the same time, the surrounding spear shadows also flew towards Chu Liyue. In an instant, Chu Liyue was completely surrounded. Fu Yunshan nodded in satisfaction. Jiang Yuan's strength has indeed improved. Now he can summon 6 spear shadows at the same time. Although he is injured and his strength has decreased, it is still enough to deal with Chu Liyue. He had always had high hopes for Jiang Yuan, and it seemed that he would not disappoint. Hearing Fu Yunshan's words, everyone from Nanfeng Academy heaved a sigh of relief and looked delighted. Jiang Yuan is only a beginner stage 4, and he can already do this. If he is at his peak, his strength would be comparable to a peak stage 4. That Chu Liyue is really difficult to deal with, but in front of Jiang Yuan, she is not strong enough. Actually, I don't think she is that strong. She is just relying on that dagger. Now that Jiang Yuan is using his full strength, she is no match for him. How can she break through these 6 spear shadows? The person who spoke suddenly stopped talking and stared at the arena, dumbfounded. What's wrong? The people beside him were listening attentively, and when they saw his expression, they looked up impatiently. When he saw it, he was stunned on the spot. On the arena, the spear shadows that surrounded Chu Liyue suddenly stopped. They stopped in front of Chu Liyue, less than half an arm's length away. If they were just a little bit closer, they would be able to stab Chu Liyue. However, there seemed to be an invisible barrier in front of Chu Liyue, blocking them all. It's a Xian formation. Someone suddenly yelled. Upon hearing this, the crowd hurriedly took a closer look. As expected, they saw streaks of silver light intertwining around Chu Liyue's body, forming a gigantic barrier that blocked all the attacks outside. She is a Xian master. Digression, I wonder if I will go crazy today. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 209. Numerous silver rays of light circled around Chu Liyue. Her eyes were blurred, and the light flickered. Vaguely, there was a strong suppressive aura. Jiang Yuan's spear was blocked and could not move an inch forward. This scene seemed to be still, and it was deeply imprinted in everyone's eyes. Jiang Yuan's eyes widened. Chu Luiwei? She's a Xian master? That's right. There was indeed a rumor that Chu Luiwei had passed all 3 assessments and entered Tianlu Academy. Then, it was normal for her to be a Xian master. However, after the battle with Lei Mingwei yesterday, everyone's attention was focused on her cultivation as a martial artist, so they neglected everything else. Now that he thought about it, Chu Luiwei was clearly sitting in the Xian master section. Jiang Yuan's mind raced, and a terrifying guess gradually formed. Could it be? That's a level 2 Xian formation. Fu Yunshan stared intently at the Xian formation in front of Chu Luiwei and blurted out. She's already a level 2 Xian master? Wasn't Chu Luiwei only 14 years old this year? Moreover, if he remembered correctly, she used to be a loser that everyone despised. It was only a few months ago that she officially embarked on the path of cultivation. How did she break through to become a level 2 Xian master in such a short time? He could not help but look at Sun Zhongyan. However, Sun Zhongyan did not look surprised at all. Instead, there was a hint of relief on his face. It was as if he was saying that this girl had finally made a move. Brother Zhongyan, is Chu Luiwei a level 2 Xian master? Although he was very sure, Fu Yunshan could not help but ask. Sun Zhongyan laughed out loud. Yes. After this girl entered the academy, she cultivated as a Xian master. Fu Yunshan choked and almost cursed out loud. Brother Zhongyan, this isn't very appropriate. If that's the case, Chu Luiwei should be participating in the Xian master competition, right? Sun Zhongyan chuckled. Yes. She signed up for both competitions. Fu Yunshan was speechless. Brother Yunshan, the Qing Jiao competition doesn't seem to have a rule that a person can only participate in one battle, right? Sun Zhongyan purposely raised his voice and asked. Fu Yunshan's breath was stuck in his chest, and he was at a loss. There was no such rule in the Qing Jiao competition. However, under normal circumstances, a person's energy was limited. Even if they had many talents, they would only register for the competition that they were best at. Now, after these 2 matches, anyone could see that Chu Luiwei had extraordinary talent as a martial artist. If she focused on cultivation, she would definitely become a top-notch expert in the future. But he didn't expect her to be so outstanding as a mystic cultivator. Fu Yunshan's lips moved, but he didn't say anything. Forget it. Even though a level 2 mystic master was powerful, Jiang Yuan was a stage 4 warrior. It shouldn't be too much of a problem to deal with him. It would be better to wait for now. Boom! An explosive sound suddenly came from the arena. The profound formation in front of Chu Luiwei had suddenly shattered like ice and scattered in all directions. The streaks of light instantly turned into inch-long icicles that were as thick as a thumb and shot towards Jiang Yuan. Ice cone formation. Chi. At a rough glance, there were more than 100 icicles. They carried a sharp aura as they pierced through the shadows of the spears. The originally sturdy spears shattered one after another. In an instant, they were right in front of Jiang Yuan's face. Jiang Yuan's hair and clothes were blown up by the cold wind. Sensing the dangerous aura from the icicles, Jiang Yuan knew that something was wrong. He immediately wanted to retreat. However, the icicles seemed to have eyes as they quickly closed in on him. An icicle narrowly flew over his head, cut off a strand of hair. Jiang Yuan's blood instantly froze and dropped to the freezing point. If he had missed by a little bit more, chi. Just as he dodged that attack, more icicles came after him, covering the sky and earth. Jiang Yuan used all his force to block and dodge, but there were still many wounds on his body. His clothes were tattered and stained with blood, and he was in a sorry state. He was shocked. Chu Luiwei was using a level 2 mystic formation, but the energy it contained was not any weaker than a level 3 one. When he dodged the last icicle, Jiang Yuan was already gasping for air. He almost collapsed from exhaustion. However, before he could heave a sigh of relief, he looked up and saw that Chu Luiwei had disappeared from the spot. His heart skipped a beat. Just as he was about to move, a cold wind came from behind him. A sharp pain came from the back of his heart. He froze, not daring to move an inch. Admit defeat, or continue? A cold voice came from behind him, sounding nonchalant. However, Jiang Yuan's heart tightened into a ball. His lips were tightly pursed, and his throat seemed to be blocked. Chu Liwei asked softly as the dagger in his hand moved forward a little more. Dark red blood seeped out from Jiang Yuan's back like blooming red plum blossoms. Jiang Yuan closed his eyes tightly and clenched his fists. After a while, he released them weakly. I admit defeat. His voice was not loud, but it could still be heard clearly in the quiet square. When Chu Liwei used the mystic formation, the crowd could not keep up with her. When she counterattacked and forced Jiang Yuan to retreat, it attracted everyone's attention and made them all keep quiet. At this moment, Jiang Yuan's words were clear and irrefutable. He admitted defeat. The final winner of this match was Chu Liwei. Chu Liwei nodded in satisfaction and quickly put away the dagger. Jiang Yuan felt that the threat was gone, but he did not feel relieved. Instead, he felt even heavier. He slowly turned around and looked at Chu Liwei with a complicated expression. Chu Liwei smiled and clasped his fist. Thank you for letting me win. Jiang Yuan smiled bitterly. He did not let her win at all. He had lost completely. Seeing that Chu Liwei was about to leave, he could not help but say, I have a question. Chu Liwei looked back at him in confusion. Jiang Yuan hesitated for a while, but still said, You seem to be more talented as a mystic master, right? Then why did you participate in the warrior competition? He did not know why he had such a guess, but he had a strong intuition. Chu Liwei was already very talented as a warrior. If she was better as a mystic master, then Chu Liwei's lips curved up slightly. I have nothing better to do. Digression, I don't know if this chapter can be updated at the same time, and I don't know if everyone can see the digression. There are a few points. First, the author's platform has been upgraded since yesterday, and there have been many problems. Many of Xiaoxiang's author's updates have been delayed by several hours. I updated 3 chapters at 5:53 p.m. yesterday, and QQ Bookstore updated immediately, but Xiaoxiang only updated it at 8:30 p.m. So it is not that February did not keep her promise, but that the system has a problem. Please understand. Second, Xiaoxiang's digression has been delayed, but it is gradually being restored. Third, I will try to update all 5 chapters at once in the future to avoid similar problems. Love mobile users, please browse and enjoy a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 210. Arrogant. That was the first thought that flashed through Jiang Yuan's mind when he heard Chu Liue's reply. So many people might not even be able to qualify for the Qing Jiao competition. Even if they did, they might not be able to achieve good results. However, Chu Liue was so relaxed. She participated in both the martial artist and Xian master competitions because she was free. Of course, Jiang Yuan knew that Chu Liue had other motives, but she had the right to say that. Regardless of whether she was a martial artist or a Xian master, she was shockingly talented. I'm willing to accept my loss. Today, I admit defeat. After thinking it through, Jiang Yuan did not care so much anymore. He regained his gentle and scholarly smile, and his tone was very sincere. Chu Liue had a whole new level of respect for him. Losing to someone with a lower cultivation level was not something to be proud of. She had given him some face just now, but she did not expect him to take the initiative to admit defeat. It seemed like he was being honest and upright. Chu Liue's smile deepened. She nodded and turned to leave. Jiang Yuan looked at her back and sighed softly in his heart before walking off the stage as well. There was no need to mention Tianlu Academy. There was another round of enthusiastic celebration. They were even more excited than when Chu Liue won the first round yesterday. They had all seen Jiang Yuan's ability clearly. He was definitely stronger than Lei Mingwei, but Chu Liue still won. How could they not be happy and proud? This time, Chu Liue had brought honor to the entire Tianlu Academy. While they were cheering and celebrating, Nanfeng Academy's side had sunk into an awkward silence. Jiang Yuan walked to Fu Yunshan and bowed apologetically. "Dean, I'm sorry to disappoint you." Fu Yunshan looked at him for a long while. Did you use your full strength in the competition just now? Jiang Yuan laughed bitterly. Dean, can't you tell whether I used my full strength or not? Fu Yunshan felt suffocated. He couldn't move up or down, and he felt very uncomfortable. Of course, he could tell that Jiang Yuan did not hold back at all. In fact, he had been very cautious from the very beginning and had not been careless or careless. Because of this, he could not accept the fact that Jiang Yuan had lost to Chu Luiyue. Seeing his stiff expression, Jiang Yuan immediately guessed what was on his mind. He paused for a moment, then said, Dean, Chu Luiyue's talent and strength are much stronger than we thought. She would be the biggest variable in this year's Qin Jiao competition. Fu Yunshan's eyes darkened. Oh! Jiang Yuan was an intelligent and rational person. Since he had such a high opinion of Chu Luiyue, then, forget it, you can go and rest first. Yes. Jiang Yuan walked back to his seat with a calm expression, as if he did not notice the gazes around him. Finally, someone couldn't help but ask, Jiang Yuan, you are already at the early stage of the fourth stage. How could you lose to Chu Luiyue? Jiang Yuan chuckled. Lei Mingwei is at the middle stage of the fourth stage. Didn't he still lose? Everyone looked at each other. But you're even stronger than Lei Mingwei. She is just since she could defeat Lei Mingwei yesterday, it proves that she has the ability. Moreover, she is a mystic master. There is nothing strange about her winning against me. As he spoke, he looked at the people around him with a playful expression. If you have any doubts, you can go and test it out yourself. Those who were still doubtful immediately quietened down. They even looked away, afraid of meeting Jiang Yuan's gaze. They were not stupid. Chu Luiyue had fought twice against fourth-stage powerhouses, but she still won 2 consecutive battles. She was definitely not easy to deal with. They couldn't even defeat Jiang Yuan. If they went up to fight with Chu Luiyue, wouldn't they end up in a worse state? Jiang Yuan ignored them and closed his eyes to rest. At the same time, he recalled every scene of his battle with Chu Luiyue. After every battle, he would do this to summarize his battle experience. If he persisted for a long time, it would indeed be beneficial to his cultivation. Seeing that he didn't intend to say anything more, everyone exchanged glances and suppressed the suspicion and curiosity in their hearts. The competition continued, and people were constantly eliminated. Some of the weaker ones were gradually eliminated, leaving behind only the strong ones. Chu Luiyue also observed carefully and paid special attention to the strongest ones. Until the last moment, no one knew who their opponent would be. Therefore, it was a good idea to take this opportunity to learn more about these people's battle characteristics. While Chu Luiyue was looking at the others, many people were also looking at her. After these 2 battles, Chu Luiyue was confirmed to be the biggest dark horse in this year's Qin Jiao competition. Naturally, she attracted a lot of attention. There were tens of thousands of people sitting in the spectator stands. Other than the people from the imperial capital, there were also people from other places and countries who came to watch the Qin Jiao competition. Not everyone knew Chu Luiyue that well. Since yesterday, quite a number of people had started to secretly find out about the various rumors about her. Even her engagement with the crown prince had been dug out, and it had once again become a hot topic of discussion. At this point, Chu Luiyue defeated Jiang Yuan and became the center of attention again. Everyone in the square was talking about it. Chu Luiyue rubbed her glabella. She could clearly hear people calling her name and talking about her from all directions. Some of them were true, and she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She only treated these rumors as a joke, but some people began to feel uneasy. Are you serious? Chu Luiyue is so pretty and talented. How can someone ask her to break off her marriage agreement? Of course, it's true. And that person isn't anyone else but country Yao Chen's crown prince, Rong Jin. I heard that their marriage agreement was set when they were young, but the crown prince got together with Chu Luiyue's sister and abandoned her. Tisk tsk. So that's why. What kind of person is her sister to make the crown prince willingly give up Chu Luiyue for her? Well, she's just someone who used despicable means to get to the top. Yes, the one with the veil over there is. She used to be pretty, but she's disfigured now. She doesn't even dare to show her face. What's the crown prince after? Isn't he passing off fish eyes as pearls and doesn't know what's good for him? We don't know either. I only know that after the Qing Jiao competition, the number of people who want to propose marriage to Chu Luiwei will probably break through her family's doorstep. Perhaps many people from country Yaochen, country Huaicang, and country Xingluo will also want to marry her. Rong Jin placed his hands on his knees, and his face was expressionless. Ever since Chu Luiwei's Yuan Meridian recovered and she entered Tianlu Academy, he had heard such words countless times. The current her was like a pearl that was covered in dust, gradually emitting a bright and dazzling light. In the past, he was bewitched, so he pushed her far away. But now, since he had seen it clearly, then he had to take back that pearl. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 211. As the competition went on, more and more people were eliminated. Sen Hu won a match yesterday, but this year, he met a strong opponent and lost. After that, Gu Mingfeng was picked again, but he won easily as he was a stage 4 warrior. Soon, it was Mu Hongyu's turn to fight again. Her opponent was a girl from Taiyan Academy called Yu Qing. Yu Qing was slender, and her appearance could only be considered delicate. However, her eyes were full of love and made her look even more charming. She looked like a small white flower swaying in the wind. On the other hand, Mu Hongyu was passionate and decisive. She was more like a blooming peony. The two of them stood on the stage, and they were extremely eye-catching. Mu Hongyu looked at Yu Qing and smiled. You're a stage 4 warrior too? That's great. I can finally fight to my heart's content. A look of surprise flashed across Yu Qing's eyes. She did not expect Mu Hongyu to be so straightforward and aggressive. She then revealed a gentle smile. I just broke through, so I might not be your opponent. Let's just have a match. Mu Hongyu found it strange. She had just broken through too. The competition had not even started yet, so why did Yu Qing say that she was not her opponent? The Qing Jiao competition was a competition between the academy and the students. Why did it seem like she did not want to fight? However, Mu Hongyu did not think too much about it when she saw Yu Qing's gentle appearance. Okay, let's start. After saying that, his figure moved and he took the lead to attack. The two of them immediately engaged in a battle. As they were both stage 4 warriors, their abilities were similar in both close and long range, so there was no need to be so particular. Mu Hongyu had always liked to attack quickly, and today was no exception. Her body had recovered, and she had just broken through. She was full of fighting spirit, so she attacked with all her might. After fighting with her for a while, Yu Qing seemed to be unable to hold on and started to retreat. Seeing this, Mu Hongyu decided to take advantage of the situation and continued to close in on her. Not long after the competition started, Yu Qing was at a disadvantage. She kept retreating and was almost at the edge. Looks like Hongyu will be able to win this round easily. Although Sen Hu had been eliminated, he knew that he was weaker than Yu Qing, so he was not too disappointed. Seeing that Mu Hongyu was about to win, he became excited. However, Gu Mingfeng's face did not relax at all. Instead, he frowned slightly. Seeing his expression, Sen Hu asked in a daze, "What? Is there something wrong?" Gu Mingfeng remained silent and shook his head. That Yu Qing is strange. Huh? How is she strange? Why can't I see it? Sen Hu was puzzled and couldn't help but turn around to take a look. Under Mu Hongyu's continuous attacks, Yu Qing was completely at a disadvantage. Yu Qing, Hongyu Qingyu. This Yu Qing is quite interesting. Looking at the situation on stage, Chu Luiwei squinted her eyes slightly. Si Yang couldn't help but ask when he heard her words. What do you mean by that? You was you was a you, a you. He was still a stage 2 warrior, so he could not tell what was going on. Chu Luiwei lifted her chin. Who do you think will win? Si Yang said without hesitation, Mu Hongyu, of course. Anyone can tell, right? Yu Qing can't retaliate at all and is being chased around. Chu Luiwei smiled, but there was no smile in her eyes. If she can't retaliate, why isn't she injured after being chased around for so long? Not even a strand of her hair is messed up. Xiang was stunned. He took a closer look and realized that it was true. He stared at Yuqing for a while and could not help but say, "Now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case. Yuqing seems to be at a disadvantage, but she seems to be holding on. She's doing it with ease." Chu Luiyue tapped her arm lightly. "She's definitely not as weak as she looks." However, he did not know why she did it on purpose. Xiang looked at Chu Luiyue speechlessly. Did she just say that a stage 4 warrior looked weak? But she seemed to have the right to say that. "Then who do you think will win?" Chu Luiyue paused. "Not necessarily. Yuqing had some tricks up her sleeves, but Mu Hongyu was not to be trifled with." At this moment, there was a cry of surprise from the crowd. Chu Luiyue looked over and her eyes turned cold instantly. The two people in the arena, one chasing and the other retreating, had unknowingly reached the edge of the arena. Yuqing took another step back and was about to fall out of the arena, but she suddenly started to counterattack. She slapped towards Mu Hongyu. Mu Hongyu's eyes lit up. "You're finally willing to make a move. Just in time." Of course, she could sense that something was wrong with Yuqing. She looked down on her deliberate dodging and had been suppressing her anger for a long time. Now that Yuqing was finally willing to face her head-on, of course she was excited and wanted to beat her to a pulp. She wanted to win this match fair and square. Force gathered in her palm and she quickly slapped it out. Wind-encompassing palm. Force surged around both of them and the strong wind from their palms was about to collide. But at this moment, Yuqing's palm deviated slightly and actually avoided Mu Hongyu's attack. But this time, she did not retreat. Instead, her palm turned into a claw and directly reached towards Mu Hongyu's collar. Mu Hongyu was shocked. She knew that something was wrong and immediately retreated. But it was too late. Yuqing, who was not as fast as her, moved extremely quickly. Not only did she narrowly avoid Mu Hongyu's attack, she even grabbed onto her collar. She pulled hard and pulled Mu Hongyu down. At the same time, she turned around with the tip of her foot. In an instant, both of their positions had completely changed. Now, the person standing at the edge of the arena was Mu Hongyu. Mu Hongyu immediately grabbed onto her arm and quickly turned around to take a look. Once she fell down, she would be out of the game immediately. "Yuqing, you're so cunning." Mu Hongyu immediately understood Yuqing's intention. Since the start of the match, she had been showing weakness and retreating continuously. Only now did she start to counterattack. It was all for the sake of pushing her down at this moment. In this way, she would not need to spend any effort to win the match. Despicable! Mu Hongyu almost exploded in anger when she understood this. Yuqing blinked her eyes and looked innocent and harmless. Did the competition rules say that I can't do this? It's just a competition. Won't it be fine as long as I win? As she spoke, she suddenly moved closer and lowered her voice. Her eyes were filled with coldness and mockery. Brainless people are destined to fail. Go down. After she finished speaking, she suddenly exerted force on her wrist and was about to push Mu Hongyu down. However, at this moment, a black shadow suddenly sprang out. It was heading straight for her face. Ah! Yuqing was caught off guard. She was so frightened that she screamed and immediately retreated. Mu Hongyu took advantage of the situation and flipped onto the arena. Song Song bite her. Digression. The third watch is around 9:30 a.m. and the fourth watch is around 5 o'clock a.m. You can watch it together at 12 o'clock a.m. I did not complete the mission yesterday. I'm repenting. From tomorrow onwards, I'll update if I'm not punctual. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 212. Yuqing took a few steps back and accidentally fell to the ground. She looked at the black shadow that was rushing towards her in shock. Only then did she see that it was actually a bear cub. It had a light brown mane all over its body, but around its neck, there was a faint gray circle with a faint layer of golden light. 4th grade magical beast, golden mane bear. Yuqing was shocked. This was Mu Hongyu's magical beast. It was not easy for an ordinary person to hunt a 3rd grade magical beast. Even the royal family might not have a fourth-grade magical beast. Not only did Mu Hongyu have one, it was a cub. Cubs were not resistant to humans and were easy to tame. Now it seemed that this golden mane bear cub was very obedient to Mu Hongyu. Just as she was in a daze, Song Song had already pounced over. It bit towards Yu Qing's neck. Magical beasts grew very quickly. When they first found this golden mane bear cub, it was still a soft ball. But in less than a month's time, it had grown a lot, and its claws and teeth had become sharp. The blood of a fourth-grade magical beast flowed in the golden mane bear cub's body, and it was born with strong attacking power. Now that he sensed that Mu Hongyu was in danger, he was enraged and naturally charged forward without any regard for his own safety. A mouthful of sharp teeth that had just grown out reflected a ghastly light. Yu Qing's entire body froze. If this bite really landed on her neck, she was afraid that it would be dangerous. She did not think and raised her arm to stop it, intending to fling the golden mane bear cub away. But this time, it did not leave any marks on the golden mane bear cub. It only tilted its body slightly and then bit her arm. No, Yu Qing saw the golden mane bear cub's action and realized that something was wrong. She wanted to retreat, but it was too late. The golden mane bear cub had already bitten her arm. The sharp teeth pierced through her flesh. Blood splattered. The intense pain came quickly, and Yu Qing's face turned pale. She instinctively flung the golden mane bear cub away. Rip, her sleeves had been torn apart, revealing her fair and smooth arm. However, an entire piece of flesh had been torn off from her forearm. The wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. Yu Qing saw her bloody wound and almost fainted. Her heart was trembling. This kind of wound would definitely leave a scar. The golden mane bear cub was kicked away, and Mu Hongyu quickly went forward to catch it and hugged it. Returning to its familiar embrace, the golden mane bear cub finally spat out the piece of flesh, but it still stared fiercely at Yu Qing, ready to pounce again. Yu Qing shuddered from its terrifying gaze. Her arrogance and pride, and all that was left was resentment and unwillingness. She hugged her arms as tears quickly gathered in her eyes and fell down like rain. Mu Hongyu, I have no enmity with you. Why are you treating me like this? His pitiful appearance immediately made many people feel sorry for him. However, Mu Hongyu did not fall for her tricks and sneered. In the competition, you have to accept your loss. I will naturally treat you the same way you treated me just now. You're so cunning. How can it be so easy to win against me without using any effort? She touched the ears of the golden mane bear cub and smiled. Is there a rule in the Qing Jiao competition that forbids summoning one's own magical beast? Yu Qing choked, and she looked terrible. Mu Hongyu was right. There was indeed no such rule. Sometimes having a high-leveled and powerful magical beast would even make one the target of envy. So, no one could say that she was wrong to summon the golden mane bear cub. But, her arm. You don't have any more strength to fight. Do you still want to continue? Mu Hongyu looked at her condescendingly. Song Song hasn't played for a while. Why don't you let it play with you? No. Yu Qing widened her eyes in horror and screamed in rejection. If this continued, who knew what kind of injuries this beast would cause her? What if it bit her face again? Many thoughts flashed through Yu Qing's mind. She suppressed the anger in her heart and pretended to be pitiful. I admit defeat. Originally, she was prepared to get a good ranking in the Qing Jiao competition. So, she had made up her mind to reduce the consumption of force in the earlier rounds and save her strength for the end. However, she did not expect Mu Hongyu to appear out of nowhere and cut off her path. If she had known, she would have ended the battle quickly and not given Mu Hongyu any chance. But now, it was too late to say anything. Mu Hongyu scoffed. This woman knew when to back down. She knew that she had no chance of winning, so she just admitted defeat. She felt that her eyes would be dirty if she looked at such a cunning person. Song, let's go. With that, Mu Hongyu carried Song Song and turned to leave. However, after taking 2 steps, a gentle but powerful female voice suddenly sounded. Ms. Mu, at the end of the day, this competition is for everyone to learn from each other and improve. Don't you think you went overboard by being so harsh on Yuqing? Mu Hongyu looked in the direction of the voice. Situ Xingqian had stood up at some point in time. Her expression was calm, but her words had a deeper meaning. Her action immediately silenced the entire square. Almost everyone's gaze was focused on her. Mu Hongyu knitted her brows. I went overboard? Are you kidding me? She was the one who played tricks first. I was just retaliating. Can I do that? Situ Xingqian smiled warmly. Ms. Mu, please don't misunderstand. I'm just stating facts. Yuqing was eager to win just now, so she used a little trick. But it's actually not a big deal. After all, you're not injured, right? On the other hand, she's a girl after all. It's not good for her to have such a scar on her arm. Mu Hongyu felt that it was ridiculous. What does her scar have to do with me? The competition is a competition of strength. Don't tell me that I have to be careful not to hurt her when I make a move. Then, what's the point of the competition? Can't everyone just go back to their own homes now? Mu Hongyu was a straightforward person, and her words were very straightforward. Her words made Situ Xingqian feel awkward. However, Yuqing had always been on good terms with her. If she just let it go now, wouldn't Yuqing be at a disadvantage? Situ Xingqian's smile faded a little. But just now, if Yuqing didn't admit defeat, Ms. Mu seemed to be planning to let that golden mane bear cub take Yuqing's life. I believe everyone clearly saw that you didn't have any intention of stopping her. So, Ms. Mu, you should at least apologize, right? Mu Hongyu was so angry that her face turned red. Why does Situ Xingqian make it sound like it's all my fault? Eldest Princess Situ, your words are biased. Chu Lue suddenly stood up and seemingly smiled. Hongyu was eager to win just now, so she summoned her fiend. Even though she didn't stop it, it's not a big deal. After all, Yuqing admitted defeat, and it didn't cause any more serious consequences, right? The golden mane bear cub is hard to tame. When it saw its owner being attacked, it instinctively wanted to fight for its life, but it had to swallow this anger. I think it's not good for its growth. So, shouldn't Yuqing apologize to Hongyu and the golden mane bear cub? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 213. Situ Xingqian did not expect someone to speak up for Mu Hongyu. Furthermore, this person was Chu Lue. Looking at that peerlessly beautiful face and thinking of that dagger, she faintly felt uncomfortable in her heart. Hence, it was hard for her to feel friendly toward Chu Lue. Miss Chu, I was just speaking the truth. I don't have any ill intentions toward Ms. Mu. Chu Lue purposely said that because she could not bear to see her friend being bullied. However, Chu Lue was not angry at all. What kind of people have I not seen before? Scheming and scheming. I was already sick of it when I became the heavenly princess and held the power of the Tianling dynasty. Now, I really don't want to waste my time on Situ Xingqian's petty thoughts. Eldest Princess Situ, I didn't say that you were wrong. It's just that everyone clearly saw the situation just now. It's not wrong to use schemes in the competition, but summoning a fiend is wrong? Even if Yuqing has a scar on her body, she can only blame herself for not being as skilled as others. There have been so many competitions, and it's not like no one has gotten injured before. However, this is the first time that the winner is being asked to apologize. Her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. The winner is king, and the loser is a bandit. This is the simplest logic and the most fair principle. If Hongyu apologizes because her fiend is too strong, I don't think there's any point in continuing the Qingjiao competition, right? Her tone was calm, neither too fast nor too slow, but her words were enough to convince people wholeheartedly. Many people whispered to each other and secretly nodded. Chu Lue makes sense. This is a competition, and victory and defeat are decided in an instant. What's the point of apologizing? Yuqing's opponent seemed to have accidentally broken her leg yesterday. Shouldn't she apologize too? Don't you know? Situ Xingqian is very close to Yuqing, so she stood up for her. Even if she's the eldest princess of country Xingluo, she can't put on airs here, right? After saying so much, isn't she just standing up for her own person? I think this Cultivation isn't as perfect as the rumors say. Instead, she can't tell right from wrong. Hearing these discussions, Cultivation could not help but clench her fists in her sleeves. She was a little angry and regretful. When Cheng Han saw that his disciple was being put on the spot, he couldn't stand it any longer and spoke up. Xingchen isn't siding with anyone. I just want to say that even though the Qing Jiao competition is a competition, there should be a limit. This old man feels that there is indeed a need to pay attention to this point. If someone has crooked thoughts and beats someone half to death, then excuses himself by saying that he was careless, then what should we do? Cheng Han glanced at Chu Luiyue and snorted coldly. Xingchen is a kind person. She said this for everyone's sake. She was a celestial physician and had to participate in the competition on the last day. In the end, this martial arts competition had nothing to do with her. She didn't have any selfish motives for sticking her head out like this. Unlike some people who took the opportunity to justify their own ruthlessness. Everyone fell silent for a moment. Isn't he obviously talking about Chu Luiyue? After all, Lei Mingwei, who fought with me the day before, was severely injured. I heard that he was still lying in bed today. Chu Luiyue could not help but clap and cheer. Indeed, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. It's fine if Cheng Han didn't say anything, but the moment he spoke, he directly put the label of ruthless on me. If I injure anyone in the competition after this, won't this label be confirmed? Before Chu Luiyue could speak, Sun Zhongyan laughed out loud. Ha! Brother Cheng Han, you really know how to joke. This Qing Jiao competition has been held for so many years, and I always felt that everyone knew the rules. I didn't expect Brother Cheng Han to set the rules today. Even though Sun Zhongyan spoke with a smile, everyone could tell that he was not joking. His words were filled with dissatisfaction and even sarcasm. The atmosphere in the venue froze. Everyone subconsciously quietened down and carefully observed the situation. Are Tianlu Academy and Taiyan Academy going to have a public fight? Nobody expected the top figures from the two academies to be at odds with each other just because of Yu Qing and Mu Hongyu's competition. Cheng Han also did not expect Sun Zhongyan to speak up for Chu Luiyue. According to his character, he might not speak up even if his disciple was the one who was at a disadvantage. Who exactly is Chu Luiyue? Why does he value her so much? Cheng Han originally wanted to give Cultivation a way out and vent his anger from losing the first match yesterday. He did not expect Sun Zhongyan to speak up as well, so he was in a dilemma. However, Sun Zhongyan did not think so much. His own student won, but she still got bullied. How could he be so aggrieved? Upon seeing the tense atmosphere, Mu Hongyu was dazed. Didn't I just win a match? How did it end up like this? Even Yu Qing was frightened and did not dare to say anything, afraid that she would be implicated. However, Chu Luiyue suddenly chuckled. Elder son, even though Hongyu won, she used up a lot of energy in this match. You should let her come back to recover her energy. There are still other matches after this. Besides, Yu Qing is injured, and she hasn't been treated yet. Even if we want to fight, we can't delay her recovery, right? This simple sentence immediately broke the tense atmosphere. Not only did he emphasize that Mu Hongyu was the winner, but he also comforted the injured Yu Qing. At this point, old Master Sun could take the opportunity to stop pursuing the matter. It would seem that Cheng Han and the rest were too impulsive to care about their own students. Cheng Han's expression turned even uglier. Hurry up and bring Yu Qing back. What if she's delayed? Please. The people below responded and hurriedly went forward to help Yu Qing back. Sun Zhongyan chuckled and did not look as hostile as before. Instead, he was very concerned. Lu Yu is still the most considerate. We can slowly discuss this later. It won't be good if her injuries are delayed. Brother Cheng Han, the children's health is more important. What do you think? Cheng Han's face turned green. This makes me seem like an inhumane person. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 214. After Yu Qing was sent off, Mu Hongyu also went down the stage happily. She walked to Chu Luiyue and winked at her. Lu Yu is indeed reliable. Not only did she speak up for me, but she even humiliated the people from Tai Yen Academy. Chu Luiyue pinched the golden mane bear cub's ears. Rest well. You still have to compete later. I know. Mu Hongyu responded. Then she purposely sighed. Song Tsong, you can't do this in the future. If not, people will say that I'm ruthless. Do you know that? The surrounding people immediately started clamoring. That's right. Hongyu, you have to look after this little thing when you compete later. Heh, I was actually quite envious of you for hunting such a golden mane bear cub. You just won a competition, but you were even scolded by others. I'm not envious at all. Mu Hongyu made a funny face. You'll be so envious. If you're so capable, go find a 4th grade fiend. The crowd roared with laughter. Cheng Han's face was green as he harshly waved his sleeves and sat down. Situ Xingqian then realized that she seemed to have brought quite a lot of trouble to her mentor. She could not help but bite her lips and softly said apologetically, I'm sorry. I was too impulsive. Cheng Han took a deep breath and furrowed his brows. Xingqian, what's wrong with you? Since yesterday until now, he had been absent-minded. You've always been smart, so why did you do something so stupid? I know that you're close to Yu Qing, but since she lost, she lost. Why did you have to argue so much for her? Aye. Situ Xingqian guiltily looked down and did not know what to say. Actually, she just couldn't stand Tianlu Academy. No, she couldn't stand Mu Hongyu. Situ Xingqian's heart felt like it was being squeezed, and she felt terrible. Actually, she knew that she was not speaking up for Yu Qing. In the past 2 days, she had seen clearly that Mu Hongyu and Chu Luiyue were on very good terms. Therefore, when she saw Mu Hongyu being so ostentatious, she felt very uncomfortable. That arrogant look was so similar to Chu Luiyue. If Mu Hongyu was proud, wouldn't Chu Luiyue be happy as well? However, such a secret thought could not be said out loud. Seeing that Situ Xingqian couldn't come up with a reason and was extremely apologetic, Cheng Han couldn't bear to continue criticizing her. Forget it. You should calm down first. Why don't you stop coming for the next 2 days? Master, said Situ Xingqian immediately. I want to stay here. You just need to participate in the Celestial Physician competition on the last day. The previous competitions have nothing to do with you. You're just wasting your time here. Why are you? I just want to see how strong they are. Master, didn't you always say that you can only win 100 battles if you know yourself and your enemy? Even though I'm a Celestial Physician, my future opponents might not only be Celestial Physicians. Cheng Han thought for a while and finally nodded. Okay, but you have to promise me that you can't do this again in the future. I'm still waiting for you to get first place in the Celestial Physician competition. Situ Xingqian heaved a sigh of relief in her heart, and her mood improved when she heard the last sentence. But Tianlu Academy's side was still lively. The crowd's topic of discussion gradually shifted from Mu Hongyu to Chu Luiyue. Don't you think that Chu Luiyue was especially handsome just now? He actually made Situ Xingqian speechless. He even forced their director to come out personally. There's nothing wrong with what she said. Our people won this competition, so why do we have to apologize? I think Chu Luiyue is very loyal. Actually, I think that he only dared to refute at the start because he had more courage than the others. However, what he said after that was really impressive. He easily made our elder son step down from the stage, and even embarrassed the other party. This isn't something that can be done if he has the guts. He also needs to have brains. Haha, to put it bluntly, Chu Luiyue is not someone to be trifled with since he could escape unscathed after offending the crown prince and the Chu family. The few people sitting beside Rong Jin broke out in cold sweat. These people are too much. Can't they see that the crown prince is sitting here? She had clearly heard every single word that was said. Finally, one of them could not help but turn around and reprimand them. What are you doing? Be quiet. The crowd kept quiet. Oh, I almost forgot that the crown prince, Rong Jin, is still in front. The few people who were the most enthusiastic looked at each other. It's over. Did the crown prince hear everything that was said? He and Chu Luiwei are like fire and water. Isn't this the same as completely offending the crown prince? One of them braced himself and smiled pleasingly. We were just casually saying that. Please don't mind us. We won't talk about it anymore. We won't talk about it anymore. The others hurriedly agreed. Yes. We were just joking. Actually, Chu Luiwei isn't that powerful. Yes. How can he compare to the few of you? You can just treat our words as bullshit. What you said is the truth. Why can't you say it? Rong Jin, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. The surrounding people felt as if they had been struck by lightning and thought that they had heard wrongly. Madam, what did the crown prince just say? What does he mean? Even the few people who had been following by his side were also confused and unable to make heads or tails of what was going on. In the awkward silence, Rong Jin finally turned around and glanced back. His gaze quickly swept past the few people and landed on Chu Luiwei's face, who was resting with his eyes closed at the back. Others were discussing her passionately, but she was as calm and collected as a mountain. Why didn't I notice it in the past? He slowed down his tone. She is indeed very outstanding. Once he finished speaking, there was dead silence. What does the crown prince mean? He's actually praising Chu Luiwei? Did the sun rise from the west? How could he say something like that with his own mouth? Everyone was stunned and did not know how to react. Chu Luiwei, who was regulating her breathing, knitted her brows and suddenly opened her eyes. Xiyang, where can I get my ears picked in the imperial city? Why are you asking this? Asked Xiyang slowly. Chu Luiwei was expressionless. My ears were dirty just now. Digression. Sleeping early and waking up early is good for your health. Mobile users, please browse and read. You can read more from Love Network. Chapter 215. Chu Luiwei did not lower her voice when she said this. Not only did Xiyang hear it, but Rong Jin and the rest also heard it clearly. Everyone instantly held their breaths. Chu Luiwei is really bold as usual. She even dares to say such things in front of the crown prince. However, to her surprise, Rong Jin only knitted his brows when he heard this, and he didn't flare up. He looked at Chu Luiwei deeply and turned his head away. Everyone was confused. The crown prince did not intend to find trouble with Chu Luiwei? Her words were so harsh, but the crown prince could tolerate it? Rong Jin could really tolerate it. Since he had already made up his mind to win back Chu Luiwei, this small matter was naturally nothing. Speaking of which, Chu Luiwei had suffered a lot when she was with him in the past. It was normal for her to have some resentment toward him. Didn't this mean that she still cared about him? Thinking of this, Rong Jin did not feel angry at all. Instead, he felt a faint sense of anticipation. He knew that Chu Luiwei had liked him for many years. Back then, he was bewitched by Chu Xianmin and broke off the engagement with her. However, how could his years of love disappear just like that? As long as he lowered his status, Chu Luiwei would definitely come back to him. Now that his father was very dissatisfied with him, he believed that his father would change his opinion if he could win back Chu Luiwei. Although he regretted breaking off the engagement with Chu Luiwei previously, he did not think much of it because of his status and face. However, Chu Luiwei was now very famous and had become a genius that everyone envied. Even if he reconciled with her, it would not be considered degrading his status. The plan now was to find an opportunity to explain his feelings to Chu Luiwei. Chu Luiwei naturally did not know that Rong Jin had thought so much in such a short time. She just felt disgusted by Rong Jin. This man was ruthless and selfish. At that time, he felt that the original host was a waste and tarnished his noble status as the crown prince, so he broke off the engagement with her. Later on, Chu Xianmin was disfigured and no longer had any use for him. Thus, he abandoned her like an old shoe. Being looked at by such a person, she felt her stomach churn. Hey, Lu Yu, why do I feel like there's something wrong with the crown prince's attitude toward you? Asked Xiyang softly as he looked at Rong Jin and Chu Luiwei. Chu Luiwei glanced at him indifferently. Xiyang obediently drew a line across his lips and shut his mouth. Si Ting, who had been memorizing the Xian formation with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and glanced at Rong Jin. Then, he looked down and hid the emotions in his eyes. Actually, he had already stopped reciting, and he could clearly hear the words around him. Rong Jin is narrow-minded, and he's acting so abnormally now. He must have some ulterior motives toward Chu Luiyue. He originally wanted to remind Chu Luiyue to be careful of Rong Jin, but he didn't say it in the end. She's so smart, so she should be able to handle it. I shouldn't think so much. Si Ting took a deep breath and closed his eyes, trying to get rid of the messy thoughts in his mind. As time passed, the competition became more and more intense. Before the 3 academies, the number of names in the warriors' box gradually decreased. In the afternoon, Chu Luiyue was picked by a girl from Nanfeng Academy. However, that girl was a stage 3 warrior. Perhaps she knew that she was not Chu Luiyue's match, so she chose to give up. She was the first person to give up since the start of the Qingjiao competition. Before this, nobody would have thought that a stage 3 warrior would give up when she picked a stage 1 warrior. However, this person was Chu Luiyue, so it made sense. She had already defeated 2 stage 4 warriors consecutively, and that was enough to prove her abilities. A stage 3 warrior was really nothing in front of Chu Luiyue. From a certain point of view, giving up was a good choice. After all, Chu Luiyue's attacks were decisive, and her moves were ruthless. What if she accidentally fainted like Lei Mingwei was? Even though the people from Nanfeng Academy felt uncomfortable, they didn't say anything. This was because they knew very well that they might not have the courage to fight with Chu Luiyue if they were in her shoes. Hence, Chu Luiyue advanced to the next round. When the second day of the competition ended, there were only 10 people left in the Qingjiao competition. Sun Zhongyan took out the last few balls of paper from the 3 boxes and read out the names of the 10 people. Among them, there were 3 from Tianlu Academy, 3 from Taiyan Academy, and 4 from Nanfeng Academy. Chu Luiyue was among them. She was also the only freshman among the 10 people. When they heard Chu Luiyue's name, the square was in an uproar. The crowd was shocked, but they also felt that it was reasonable. Even though Chu Luiyue had only competed twice, she was very capable. Nobody doubted her abilities. She indeed had the right to be in the top 10. Sun Zhongyan looked around. Tomorrow's competition will be the final battle between the 10 of them. The top warrior of this year's Qingjiao competition will also be born from these 10 people. When you go back today, please recharge your energy and do your best to come out on top tomorrow. The crowd responded in unison as if they could already imagine how intense tomorrow's competition would be. They couldn't help but feel excited. Chu Luiyue stood up with the crowd and planned to return to the academy. However, she was blocked by someone after taking a few steps. It was Rong Jin. When the surrounding people saw this, they sensibly avoided them. However, their eyes kept looking in their direction, afraid that they would miss something. Chu Xianmin, who was walking in the crowd, also saw this scene. Her heart was in her mouth, and she couldn't help but take 2 steps forward, wanting to hear what they were talking about. Rong Jin looked at Chu Luiyue, and his voice was unprecedentedly gentle. "Luiyue, I want to have a few words with you." Chu Luiyue looked nonchalant. "Your Highness, there shouldn't be anything to talk about with me, right?" Rong Jin didn't care about her attitude and just took it that she was throwing a tantrum. He smiled and said, "It won't take up too much of your time." Chu Luiyue looked up lazily. "Your Highness, my time is precious, and I don't want to waste it on you." Her words were a little harsh. Rong Jin was a little embarrassed. Chu Luiyue then raised her feet and walked around him to leave. Rong Jin hurriedly stood in front of her again and didn't care about anything else. "Since that's the case, I'll be direct. After the Qingjiao competition, the osmanthus flowers in Golden Osmanthus Garden have bloomed. Are you here to admire the flowers?" Golden Osmanthus Garden was a garden under Rong Jin's name. It was given to him by Emperor Jiwen on his 16th birthday. Countless osmanthus trees were planted in the garden. Every year during this season, the osmanthus flowers would bloom, and their fragrance would fill the entire garden. It was also a famous scenic spot in the imperial city. Chu Luiyue slowly raised his brows. "Golden Osmanthus Garden?" Isn't that the place where the original me went to the crown prince's birthday banquet but was mocked for her shabby clothes and chased out? What is Rong Jin thinking? How can he have the cheek to invite me to a place that humiliates me? No, Chu Luiwei rejected him directly. Why? Rong Jin was confused. Didn't you like it there in the past? You said that the osmanthus flowers are fragrant, and it's the best place to admire the moon. It's hard for your highness to remember this. But do you still remember what you said back then? Rong Jin's voice suddenly stopped, and his expression turned ugly. You said that golden osmanthus garden means precious. A poor beggar like me doesn't have the right to enter. Chu Liuyue's lips curled up into a smile, but there was no happiness in her eyes. Of course, Rong Jin remembered. At that time, he only felt that Chu Luiyue was lowly. Not to mention stepping into golden osmanthus garden, he felt terrible even if he had to look at it. After that, he never invited Chu Luiyue again. That's all in the past. There's no point in talking about it now. Luyu, things are different now. I sincerely invite you. Chu Luiyue enunciated every word clearly. Your Highness, I really don't want to go. How many times do I have to say, no, before you understand? Rong Jin was embarrassed as if he had been slapped in front of everyone. Your Highness and I have already broken off our engagement. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Not in the past, not now, and definitely not in the future. So, you should find someone else for this kind of thing in the future. Chu Liuyue's gaze lightly swept across Chu Xianmin, who was not far away. After all, there are still many people waiting for you to dote on them. Then, Chu Luiyue did not look at Rong Jin's expression and walked forward. This time, Rong Jin did not stop him. Saying this in front of so many people was already his limit. Now that Chu Luiyue had mercilessly rejected him, it made him even more embarrassed. Chu Xianmin bit her lips tightly and suppressed the jealousy and resentment in her heart with much difficulty. She walked forward and softly persuaded him. Your Highness, let's go back first. Rong Jin glanced at her and saw the veil on her face. He was disgusted. If it weren't for Chu Xianmin's instigation, he and Chu Luiyue would not have ended up like this. He suddenly waved his sleeves and flung Chu Xianmin's hand away. He turned around and strode away without any words of consolation. Chu Xianmin staggered and fell to the ground. Ouch! A sharp pain came from her arm, causing her to unknowingly cry out in pain. When she competed today, she was unlucky and met a stage 4 warrior. Not only did she lose, but she was also injured. When she fell, she happened to graze her wound. The surrounding people looked at her coldly with different expressions. If it were in the past, many people would have immediately stepped forward to help Chu Xianmin when they saw her like this. But now, her looks were disfigured, and she was married to the crown prince as an unfavored concubine. Her parents were even more troublesome. Who would risk offending Chu Luiyue and the crown prince to help Chu Xianmin? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 216. News of the Crown Prince's invitation to Chu Luiyue being rejected spread like wildfire. Everyone had different reactions and they had different opinions. However, Chu Liuyue's attitude clearly showed that she did not want to give the Crown Prince face. That's right. She already dared to offend the Chu family and the Crown Prince when she had nothing. The current Chu Luiyue was no longer the useless person she used to be. Rong Jin returned to his residence with a gloomy mood. Song Yuan served him carefully at the side. Your Highness, I've already sent people to block the news of today's incident. The people in the imperial city? Block what? Let them spread the news. The wider the news, the better. Rong Jin suppressed his anger and coldly glanced at Song Yuan. Song Yuan was dazed. Your Highness, what do you mean? It's best if all the aristocratic families in the imperial city know about this. Rong Jin's voice was cold. Song Yuan was his confidant, so he quickly guessed his thoughts. You're saying that other people won't have any thoughts about Ms. Chu Luiyue if they know that you're interested in her? Rong Jin did not say anything, but his expression showed that he agreed. Even though he was not in a good situation now, he was still the crown prince. The people in the imperial city had to take him into consideration. If news of today's incident spread, everyone would know that he was determined to get Chu Luiyue. Then, those who knew what was good for them would naturally avoid her. Even though Chu Luiyue and Chu Zhihu were admitted to Tianlu Academy, not many people came to propose marriage because they had offended the Chu family and Rongjin. They were all rejected by Chu Ning. After the Qingjiao competition, many people would have thoughts about her. However, as long as Rongjin made the first move, no one would dare to snatch her from him. Even though Chu Luiyue was still unhappy with him, she would definitely return to him after some time. He had plenty of patience. Thinking of this, his expression finally looked better. Song Yuan's eyes turned and he carefully asked, "Your Highness, I'm afraid that person will be unhappy." That person was naturally Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin and Chu Luiyue had already shed all pretense of cordiality. If the crown prince planned to marry Chu Luiyue, Chu Xianmin would definitely find it hard to accept. At that time, who knew what kind of trouble they would cause? Rongjin rubbed his glabella, and disgust flashed across his eyes. Who does she think she is? Does this consort have to look at her face when doing anything? If she dared to cause trouble, she would be punished according to the rules of the crown prince residence. Song Yuan's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly agreed. Yes. Rongjin then gave some instructions, and Song Yuan agreed to them one by one before coming out. Walking into the courtyard, Song Yuan Kai finally breathed a sigh of relief and secretly shook his head. Previously, they thought that Chu Xianmin was finally favored, but they did not expect her to fall out of favor before she could do anything. Obviously, the crown prince had no interest in her. It seemed that there was no need to treat him well in the future. Chu Luiyue, no one knew what the crown prince was thinking. Why did he want to chase her back? It also seemed like he had to do it. However, recalling the things that Chu Luiyue had done during this period of time, Song Yuan could not help but feel worried. She could even turn against the Chu family that had once raised her, let alone the crown prince. Now, His Majesty was very unhappy with the crown prince. Not only did he take back the power that he had previously given the crown prince, but he also placed him under house arrest for a long time. Now that the crown prince had finally gotten rid of his punishment, he wanted to do this again. No one knew how His Majesty would react. Chu Luiyue did not take Rongjin to heart at all. She only felt that he was sick in the head regarding his various actions today. After returning to the academy, she simply tidied up and went to the second floor to cultivate. She sat cross-legged, held her breath, and focused as she quickly absorbed the surrounding heaven and earth force. Time passed bit by bit. The force gathered in Chu Luiyue's body became more and more abundant. In her danton, the water droplet that had been quietly floating all this while started to move. Chu Luiyue was elated. Previously, she had already felt that she was about to break through to become a stage 2 warrior, but the water droplet refused to carve the second line. She focused her mind, gathered the force in her body into one, and rushed toward the water droplet. A shallow ripple finally appeared on the calm and smooth surface of the water. Chu Luiyue was very nervous as she controlled her force to rush toward it again. Ripples gradually appeared on the water droplet. Even the first line that was carved on it seemed to have a slight ripple. Chu Luiyue waited nervously. If she could break through, her pressure for tomorrow's competition would be greatly reduced. The most important thing was that she felt that a stage 1 warrior's level was too low. She stared at the water droplet closely. However, after a while, the ripples on it gradually calmed down. Chu Luiyue was dazed on the spot. She took a closer look and indeed saw that the water droplet was as smooth as before. It was very clear that there was still only one line. She did not break through to become a stage 2 warrior. Chu Luiyue stared in disbelief. She had never thought that after living for 2 lifetimes, she would be stuck at this level. Even breaking through to become a stage 2 warrior was so difficult. It was not an exaggeration to say that the heaven and earth force that she had absorbed during this period was enough for an ordinary cultivator to break through to become a stage 4 warrior. Otherwise, she would not have won those 2 competitions. However, this level of cultivation was still unwilling to be raised. She let out a sigh and weakly lay on the bed. The cultivation speed of the Daijing Yuan Meridian was very fast. She originally thought that she could quickly increase her strength and return to the Tianling dynasty to take revenge. However, according to her current cultivation speed, she did not know how long she would have to wait for that day. Tell me, what's wrong with you? Other people cultivate very fast, but it's so slow for me. Chu Luiyue muttered to herself. The water droplet in her dantian was calm like a bottomless pit, silently swallowing the rest of the force. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 217. On the third day of the Qing Jiao competition. The sky was clear, and the breeze was warm. On this day, there were even more people in Jianan Square compared to the previous 2 days. After all, it was the day of the finals, so many people were interested in it. Those who could stand out in the Qing Jiao competition were usually very outstanding talents. Some aristocratic families also liked to choose young men or young ladies to marry. When Chu Luiyue arrived, she felt a familiar gaze. She turned her head and saw Chu Ning in the crowd. He was sitting in the spectator seats behind Tianlu Academy. He was wearing casual clothes and clearly did not want to attract attention. When he saw Chu Luiyue looking over, he immediately waved happily. Chu Luiyue smiled and walked over. "Father, why are you here today?" "I'm here to see you." Chu Ning looked at his daughter comfortingly. He had not seen her for a few days, but he missed her. "It's a break today. I heard that you made it to the finals, so I came especially." As he watched Tieth, "They said that you defeated 2 Stage 4 warriors. Are you injured?" Chu Luiyue saw the worry in his eyes, and her heart warmed. "Father, don't worry. I'm fine." "Aren't I fine? Since you're here today, just stay here and watch. I won't disappoint you." Chu Ning was happy and worried at the same time. "Just do your best. Your health is important. Do you understand? It's your first time participating in the Qing Jiao competition. It's already very impressive that you made it to the top 10. You must be careful in the competition." After what happened at Wanling Mountain, his biggest wish now was for you to be safe and healthy. Nothing else mattered. Chu Luiyue patted his arm. Knows what to do. Only then did Chu Ning nod. Anyway, he was here today, and he would not let anyone bully you. At this point, he inadvertently looked up and saw Rong Jin. His face turned cold as he asked, "Oh, did the Crown Prince harass you yesterday?" Chu Luiyue could not help but laugh. Everyone thought that the Crown Prince had changed his mind about her. Only her own father directly said that she was harassing him. He really was her biological father. He had nothing better to do. I didn't even bother with him. That's good, that's good. Almost overnight, many people knew that Rong Jin had taken the initiative to seek peace with Chu Luiyue. When he heard this, not only was he not happy at all, he even felt disgusted for a long time. How did Rong Jin treat my daughter back then? Now, he actually had the face to do so. We don't care about those things. If the Crown Prince restrains himself, then so be it. But if he dares to do this again, father will definitely not let him off. Although Chu Ning's voice was low, his expression was very serious. It was better to stay as far away from people like Rong Jin as possible. Chu Luiyue nodded. With father's words, you is at ease. Please sit here for a while. I'll be back after the competition. Chu Ning hurriedly said, Go. Don't delay. Not long after Chu Luiyue took his seat, the competition officially began. The rules of the competition between the last 10 people were very simple. These 10 people would first have a ranking. Those who had participated in the Qing Jiao competition would be at the front, and they would be ranked according to their best results. Those who had participated in the Qing Jiao competition for the first time would be at the back, and they would be ranked according to their level. The top 3 from last year had all graduated, so they did not participate in this year's Qing Jiao competition. Hence, the first person this year was Taiyin Academy's Sidu Ziyue, who had obtained 4th place last year. The second person was Rong Jin, who had obtained 5th place last year. The next few people were also people who had obtained good rankings in the previous Qing Jiao competition. Only 2 of the freshmen this year entered the finals. One was Chu Luiwei. The other was Nanfeng Academy's Yiqianjia. Yiqianjia's level was a Stage 3 warrior. Hence, as a Stage 1 warrior, Chu Luiwei was ranked 10th. The 10 people went up on stage and took their wooden tokens with their rankings from Elder Sunday. Chu Luiwei glanced at his wooden token, and there was indeed a 10 written on it. Sun Zhongyan's gaze swept across the few of them. Now, all of you have your own rankings. In the finals, you will be split into 2 batches. The top 5 and the bottom 5. In the first round, the bottom 5 can choose an opponent from the top 5 and challenge them. If they succeed, their rankings will be swapped. If they fail, they will maintain their previous rankings. When the second round begins, everyone can challenge someone who is of a higher level than them. The competition will continue until no one challenges anyone else and accepts their rankings. Then, the first place will be decided. Chu Luiwei squinted his eyes. The rules were indeed simple, but they were also very cruel. If one wanted to obtain first place, not only did they have to win, but they also had to win continuously. Whether it was physically or mentally, it was an extremely long and torturous process. Luyu, you're ranked 10th now. You can choose first. Sun Zhongyan looked at Chu Luiwei, and his gaze was much gentler. Everyone looked over and guessed who Chu Luiwei would choose for the first challenge. Out of the 5, Rong Jin is from Tianlu Academy, just like her. Logically speaking, she shouldn't choose him. However, it's hard to say about the remaining 4. The lowest cultivation level among them is an intermediate Stage 4 warrior. Chu Luiwei might not be their match. I think so too. Even Sang Yang, who's ranked 5th, can't be underestimated. Chu Luiwei probably doesn't have much chance of winning. Not to mention the first few. Zhong Yuanfeng, who's ranked 4th, is also a Xian master. These people have hopes of obtaining first place this year. Chu Luiwei will still be ranked 10th even if she loses to them. It's her first time participating in the Qing Jiao competition. Such results are already praiseworthy. That's true. She's only 14 this year, and her future is limitless. If she waits for another year or 2, she might even be able to obtain first place in the Qing Jiao competition. The crowd discussed fervently. Chu Luiwei's gaze swept across the few people in front of her. Finally, her gaze landed on one of them. Her lips curled up into a smile. Tianlu Academy's Chu Luiwei challenges Taiyin Academy's Situ Ziwei. Once she said that, there was dead silence. Chu Luiwei actually chose Situ Ziwei, who's ranked 1st. Is she crazy? Mobile users, please browse the internet for a better reading experience. Chapter 218. After a short silence, there was an uproar. The entire square was in an uproar. Chu Luiwei actually chose Situ Ziwei? He's an advanced Stage 4 warrior. Could it be that she purposely chose the strongest one because she has no chance of winning? This way, even if she loses, she won't look bad. But if that's the case, she'll lose very badly. Did you forget that Situ Ziwei is Situ Xingqian's brother? Chu Luiwei and Situ Xingqian fell out so badly yesterday. It's hard to say if Situ Ziwei will make things difficult for her. What exactly is she thinking? I think she probably doesn't know who she is anymore after winning 2 matches. This time, she'll definitely fall hard. Situ Ziwei furrowed his brows and looked at the smiling girl in front of him. Are you sure? I'm sure. Lu Yu. Sun Zhongyan could not help but say worriedly. The first round of the competition is very important. Do you really want to challenge him? Actually, from his point of view, Chu Luiwei was indeed not a match for the top 5. If she chose a relatively weaker opponent now, she might still be able to preserve her energy and get a better ranking in the second round. But now that she chose Situ Ziwei, she might not have the energy to fight again after this battle. Chu Luiwei calmly and firmly nodded. I've already chosen. Seeing how determined Chu Luiwei was, Sun Zhongyan knew that it was useless to persuade her, so he could only look at Situ Ziwei. Situ Ziwei, do you accept the challenge? Situ Ziwei smiled. Of course. Very quickly, the remaining few people also chose their opponents. But at this point, no one cared about that. Everyone's attention was on Chu Luiyue and Sidu Ziyue's match. The others left the stage one after another, and only the two of them were left. Their match was the first one. This Chu Luiyue is really arrogant. She wants to challenge Ziyue the moment she comes up. She really doesn't know her own worth. Cheng Han did not hide his disdain and sarcasm. After these 2 days of competition, he couldn't stand Chu Luiyue. Unexpectedly, she actually took the initiative to deliver herself to him. Ziyu is about to break through to the 5th stage. Does she think that she can defeat Ziyu after defeating Lei Mingwei and Jiang Yuan? How laughable! Xingqian, Ziyue has always doted on you the most. Today, he will definitely avenge you. Situ Xingqian listened by the side and felt a little relieved. However, she knitted her brows slightly as if she was worried. Big brother has always been stubborn. It won't be good if he uses too much force. Chu Luiyue asked for it. She definitely knows about the relationship between you and Ziyu. She also knows about Ziyu's strength, but she still wants to challenge him. Even if she ends up half dead, she can't blame anyone. Such an arrogant person had to suffer some hardships. Situ Xingqian pursed her lips. The people behind him couldn't help but ask. Xingqian, you're too kind. He was still thinking about her at a time like this? When she said that to you yesterday, did she think about you? Exactly. People like her have to be taught a lesson. She might not appreciate your kindness. Situ Xingqian smiled warmly. I didn't think so much. I just heard that Chu Luiyue had an incomplete Yuan meridian in the past, and it wasn't easy for her to cultivate. It won't be good if Big Brother uses too much force. I'll just believe in Big Brother. In the arena, Chu Luiyue and Sidu Ziyue faced each other from afar. Your courage is commendable. If you had chosen someone else, you might have gotten a better ranking. It's a pity that you chose me. This time, your Qin Jiao competition will end here. Sidu Ziyue's tone was calm as if he was just stating a fact. In actual fact, his abilities did give him the right to say this. Chu Luiyue held the dagger in his hand. It's not too late to say these words after you win against me. Then he attacked first. He went straight for Sidu Ziyue. Sidu Ziyue sneered in his heart. Hearing this, Chu Luiyue actually thinks that he can win against me? There's a huge difference between an intermediate stage 4 warrior and a peak stage 4 warrior. Besides, I'm only an inch away from a stage 5 warrior now. Seeing Chu Luiyue rushing toward him, he quickly circulated his force, but he didn't dodge. In the blink of an eye, Chu Luiyue was already in front of him. He waved his arm, and the dagger directly pierced Sidu Ziyue's chest. The crowd was in an uproar. Chu Luiyue's gaze turned cold. There wasn't a single trace of blood on Sidu Ziyue's body. This is just his afterimage. She quickly turned around. Sidu Ziyue is indeed behind me. Your reaction isn't slow. It's a pity that it's useless. Sidu Ziyue said calmly. The crowd then saw that the Sidu Ziyue that Chu Luiyue had stabbed was gradually disappearing. I didn't expect Sidu Ziyue's lightning flash footwork to reach such a level. His afterimage can almost be passed off as the real thing. I remember last year, his afterimage was just a blurry silhouette that wouldn't last long before disappearing. But now, he can actually last for such a long time. No matter how fast Chu Luiyue is, compared to Sidu Ziyue, he's still too far away. This is completely a one-sided suppression. I just don't know how Sidu Ziyue plans to fight this match. If he's willing to end it quickly, it's fine. If he wants to teach Chu Luiyue a lesson, then. Chu Luiyue's gaze turned slightly and landed on Sidu Ziyue's feet. When he moved, blue lightning would faintly appear under his feet. No wonder his speed was so fast. It seemed like this method wouldn't work. Since you've already made your move, then it's my turn now. Sidu Ziyue said as he folded his hands in front of him. The icy blue force gathered and finally condensed on his right index finger. At first glance, that finger seemed to be burning with a ball of blue flame. Immediately, he stretched his hand forward and lightly tapped. Boom! A huge blue flame formed a finger and pressed towards Chu Luiyue. Ice flame finger. A terrifying pressure instantly enveloped Chu Luiyue, making him unable to move. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 219. With this finger, Chu Luiwei would be severely injured even if she didn't die. Chu Luiwei stared at the blue finger that was approaching her. She was very clear that the gap between the two of them was too big. Any small tricks or schemes would be useless at this moment. Therefore, she had to do her best. If she wanted to win, then she flipped her wrist and took out 2 items from her Qiankuan bag. At this moment, the finger was already in front of her. She was about to be completely crushed. The outside of the arena was silent. Everyone's eyes were focused on this place. Chu Ning stood up abruptly and was extremely anxious. If Situ Ziyue dared to kill you, he would stop him no matter what. Sun Zhongyan was also frowning. He planned to make a move at any time. It didn't matter if Chu Luiwei lost this round. However, if there were any serious sequelae, the loss would outweigh the gain. Moreover, if something happened to Chu Luiwei, how would he explain it to his martial uncle? Well, the burning flame on the giant finger suddenly flew out rapidly and completely surrounded Chu Luiwei. Exclamations came from the crowd. It's over. Chu Luiwei will lose for sure. How is it just losing for sure? That ice flame finger is one of Situ Ziyue's trump cards. It's extremely powerful. I heard that there was once someone who wanted to assassinate him but was killed by Situ Ziyue in the end. I'm afraid Chu Luiwei won't be able to withstand this flame. If she admits defeat now, she might suffer less. God, what is Situ Ziyue trying to do? In the arena, Situ was crazily pouring his force into the ice flame finger. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The flames, which were already surging fiercely, suddenly surged up. Chu Luiwei's figure completely disappeared. Under the ice flame finger, a clear indentation had already appeared on the white jade floor. The ground around the flame that surrounded Chu Luiwei was directly charred black. Was he trying to kill Chu Luiwei? Sun Zhongyan suddenly stood up. Situ Ziyu, are you trying to kill me on the spot? Before Situ Ziyu could say anything, Cheng Han had already spoken. Brother Cheng Han, why are you in such a hurry? Chu Luiwei had the wooden token of the Qing Jiao competition on him. If something really happened, the wooden token would automatically crack open as a warning. But now, wasn't he still fine? Why are you so worried? Sun Zhongyan was so angry that his face turned pale. Of course, he knew that Chu Luiwei was still alive. But if he waited until the wooden tablet cracked, it would be too late. That girl was his martial uncle's only disciple after so many years. She was also a genius that he thought highly of. If she died just like that, he would definitely not let the matter rest. Cheng Han, you have to think carefully. If something happens to her, you won't be able to afford it. Cheng Han did not think so. Instead, he laughed and said, "Didn't Brother Zhongyan say yesterday that the children had a sense of propriety? I watched Ziyue grow up. He has always been steady and would never do anything overboard." Sun Zhongyan knew that Cheng Han was just being unreasonable. He could not be bothered with him and decided to charge forward. Chen Han also stood up with a cold expression on his face. "Brother Zhongyan, are you going to break the rules first?" Sun Zhongyan did not say anything and was about to make a move. Chu Luiwei was enveloped in that ball of fire, and there was no movement at all. He was afraid that something bad was going to happen. On the other side, Chu Ning had already jumped down from her seat and rushed toward the arena. However, at that moment, the situation on the arena suddenly changed. With Chu Luiwei as the center, several silver streams of light suddenly appeared. Buzz. A strange buzzing sound could be heard. It instantly spread throughout the entire Jianan square. Sun Zhongyan suddenly looked up, and Chu Ning immediately stopped as well. The silver streams of light were still increasing. Moreover, they were intertwining. Situ Ziyu gradually frowned, and a trace of uneasiness appeared in his heart. For some reason, he seemed to have sensed a dangerous aura. Buzz. The buzzing sound became clearer and clearer. The intertwining streams of light finally formed. Fu Yunshan stood up in shock. A fourth-level Xian formation? This kind of pressure, this kind of aura, and that complicated pattern, as a Xian master, Sun Zhongyan had already realized something the moment the streams of light appeared. At that moment, when he saw the gigantic Xian formation on the arena, his heart raced. That was indeed a fourth-level Xian formation. A clear female voice suddenly rang out. Buddha Lotus Formation. The streams of light intertwined on the Xian formation, and it looked like a lotus flower that was blooming beautifully. Boom, boom, boom. A terrifying aura spread out from the Xian formation. At the same time, the ice fire finger that was approaching Chu Luiwei suddenly shattered. The flames that had originally enveloped her fell like sparks and scattered in all directions. A slender and straight figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Gasps could be heard from the crowd. Chu Luiwei was actually not dead. In fact, her body was unharmed, and there were no injuries at all. She was holding a palm-sized black crystal in her hand. Countless streams of light were flowing out from that crystal. It's the Black Crystal Xian Formation. Someone cried out in surprise. After a momentary daze, almost everyone's face was filled with shock. It was normal for a Xian master to be able to activate a Black Crystal Xian Formation, but Chu Luiwei was clearly a Stage 2 Xian master. How could she activate a fourth-level Black Crystal Xian Formation? Situ Xingqian, on the other hand, lost her composure and widened her eyes as she stared at Chu Luiwei's other hand. A small crystal ball was faintly discernible. That's crystal barrier. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 220. A gigantic silver Buddha lotus bloomed in the arena. When the petals gently waved, they easily swallowed the blue flames and extinguished them. Everything was carried out silently, but it was enough to make one's scalp tingle. Situ Ziyue's move, which was supposed to win, was actually resolved by Chu Luiwei just like that. Seeing that Chu Luiwei was unharmed, Chu Ning's anxious heart finally calmed down. Even though he knew that Yu wouldn't risk her life, he couldn't help but worry when he saw it with his own eyes. Thankfully, she can always make me feel at ease at the crucial moment. Sun Zhongyan's actions also suddenly paused as he stared at the arena in shock. What exactly happened just now? How did Chu Luiwei withstand Situ Ziyue's attack and activate the fourth-level Xian formation? However, a thought surfaced in his mind uncontrollably. During the midterm assessment back then, I felt that this girl seemed to be hiding her abilities. Now, it seems like it's true. Cheng Han finally couldn't sit still, but before he could speak, Situ Xingqian had already stood up and hurriedly walked forward with a face full of disbelief. How can this be? How can this be? Situ Xingqian couldn't help but mumble softly, not daring to believe her eyes. She really hoped that she saw wrongly. However, the crystal barrier is indeed in Chu Luiwei's hands. This is the only way to explain why Chu Luiwei was unharmed after Situ Ziyue's attack. Xingqian? What's wrong? Sensing her abnormality, Cheng Han couldn't care about anything else and immediately went forward to ask. Situ Xingqian subconsciously clenched her fists. It seems like I've indeed neglected too many things. This Chu Luiwei is hiding too many secrets. She took a deep breath in, suppressed her emotions, and shook her head. Nothing. I'm just a little worried about brother. Cheng Han patted her shoulders. Don't worry. Chu Luiwei is just a Stage 2 Xian master. She must have used up most of her energy to activate the Black Crystal Xian formation. She can't completely unleash its effects. After all, Ziyue is a Stage 4 warrior. Chu Luiwei won't be his match. She just needs to spend more effort. Situ Xingqian took a look and indeed saw that Chu Luiwei's lips were a little pale. She then relaxed and returned to her seat. The others quickly noticed this as well. The people from Tianlu Academy who had just heaved a sigh of relief started to worry again. How did Chu Luiwei activate that fourth-level Black Crystal Profound formation? This problem isn't the most important thing right now. The most important thing is that with her strength, she won't be able to hold on for long. I'm afraid this match is still dangerous. Situ Ziyue's strength is tyrannical after all. If Chu Luiyue was a true level 4 mystic cultivator, his chances of victory would definitely be extremely high, but now, Chu Luiyue ignored all these discussions. At this moment, all of her energy was focused on the Black Crystal Xian formation. After returning from Wang Lin mountain range, she thought about it and felt that she was in a very dangerous situation. If she didn't have any trump cards, she wouldn't be safe. Hence, she went to Zhenbao Pavilion and bought it from Second Master Yan. She originally wanted to use it when she was in danger, but the situation was urgent now, so she couldn't care less. The level 4 mystic formation engraved on it didn't consume much force, so she could activate it with her own strength. However, she couldn't unleash its full power. There were actually 2 layers to the lotus on the mystic formation. However, with her current strength, she could only activate 1 layer. The other layer still didn't have any movement. After a short while, she could already feel the strength in her body rapidly depleting. It wouldn't be long before he would collapse. This could temporarily stop Situ Ziyue, but it was still very difficult for her to win. No wonder you dared to challenge me directly. It turns out that you have such confidence. Situ Ziyue's expression gradually turned cold. However, if you think you can win like this, you're too naive. Before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly leaped up. At the same time, a saber suddenly appeared in his hand. It was a long saber that was greenish-black in color. The blade wasn't sharp and was even a little blunt. There was a strange pattern engraved on the blade. "It's the Ling Xiao saber." Someone suddenly cried out in alarm. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. The Ling Xiao saber was a national treasure of country Xingluo's royal family. It was rumored that the founding emperor of country Xingluo used this Ling Xiao saber to carve out a piece of the world. Not only was the Ling Xiao saber powerful, but it was also a symbol of status. Now that it was in Situ Ziyue's hands, it almost proved that he was the next emperor of country Xingluo. "It's your honor to be able to force me to use the Ling Xiao saber," Situ Ziyue said coldly. At the same time, he held the saber with both hands and slashed it down fiercely. A terrifying greenish-black blade flew out quickly. In the blink of an eye, the blade directly pierced through the center of the blooming lotus. The huge mystic formation was instantly split in half. This slash directly split the mystic formation, and countless violent forces scattered in all directions. Chu Luiyue quickly retreated, but she was still affected by the force of the attack. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying force crashed into her body. Her internal organs seemed to have been squeezed into a ball. Chu Luiyue's chest shook, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood splattered on her lapel and dyed it red. As for her aura, it instantly withered away. Situ Ziyue's movements were too fast. She didn't even have time to use the colored glass barrier. The originally dazzling mystic formation began to dim at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone watched this scene in silence. Everyone could see that Chu Luiyue was bound to lose this time. Even if she was at her peak, she might not be Situ Ziyue's opponent, let alone now when she was heavily injured. Situ Ziyue held the Ling Xiao saber and looked down at Chu Luiyue. His eyes were indifferent, as if he was looking at an ant. After a moment, his thin lips opened slightly and coldly spat out a few words. "You overestimate yourself." As he spoke, he raised his saber again. "This time, it's time to end it." Chu Luiyue looked up and saw the second saber flying towards her at an even faster speed. She swung her arm and threw out the colored glass barrier. A transparent enchantment with a faint silver glow enveloped her in an instant. Bang! The saber collided with the colored glass barrier and made a dull sound. However, the glazed barrier only shook slightly before it quickly devoured the terrifying power. Chu Luiyue, who was standing inside, was not affected at all. After Situ Ziyue saw clearly what it was, a look of disgust flashed across his eyes. "Extremely cunning. Do you really think that you can hide in here forever?" Chu Luiyue wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and glanced at him. "Don't worry, I won't make you wait for long." What? Situ Ziyue frowned and saw Chu Luiyue sitting cross-legged inside the colored glass barrier. Then, she placed her hands on her knees and closed her eyes. The corner of Situ Ziyue's eyes twitched. Chu Liyue swallowed the thick smell of blood in her mouth and said word by word. Wait for me to break through first. God damn it, she actually wants to break through at this time. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 221. Chu Liyue only realized that something was wrong with her dantian after Situ Ziyue used the Ling Xiao saber to break the Xian formation. She didn't feel anything then, but after the black crystal Xian formation backfired, the water droplet in her dantian seemed to be stimulated by something and started to spin rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it had already swallowed all the force that was stored in her dantian, and it didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. She then realized that she was about to break through. During the intense battle with Situ Ziyue, she had been waiting and thinking of ways to break through to become a stage 2 warrior, but nothing happened. Who would have thought that at this moment, Chu Liyue was speechless when she said it out loud. This kind of probability was really hard to come by. Luckily, she had the crystal barrier that Rong Xiu left behind, which could help her hold on for a while. Otherwise, she would have to admit defeat and leave the stage. After clearing her mind, Chu Liyue closed her eyes and started to absorb the surrounding heaven and earth force in an attempt to break through. Soon, the rich heaven and earth force surged toward her and entered her body through the crystal barrier. Everyone in the square was dead silent when they saw this scene. Some even rubbed their eyes hard to make sure that they weren't seeing things. Chu Liyue, she's actually trying to break through in the middle of the Qin Jiao competition. What is going on? Situ Ziyue was embarrassed and angry. Chu Liyue's actions were simply looking down on him. He swung his saber again to attack, but the crystal barrier was too strong and couldn't be broken. Chu Liyue sat inside and didn't move at all. She was focused on breaking through. Situ Ziyue only felt that he had been greatly humiliated. He clenched his saber's hilt tightly and couldn't wait to cut the crystal barrier open and finish Chu Liyue off completely. When Cheng Han saw this situation, he also felt that he could not keep his face. Brother Zhongyan, isn't Chu Liyue going overboard by doing this? She's looking down on Ziyue and the Qin Jiao competition. Sun Zhongyan was also stunned by Chu Liyue's actions. However, she was one of them, so he had to side with her. Oh, Lu Yu is just trying to break through. She's not cheating or anything. Brother Cheng Han, aren't you going overboard? I don't think so. Chen pointed at Chu Liyue, who was on the stage, with an ugly expression on her face. The Qin Jiao competition is as a competition, not a place for cultivation. If she didn't do it on purpose, why did she choose to break through at this moment? Who knows how long it will take for her to break through? I don't think there's any need to continue this competition. All sorts of situations can happen on the path of cultivation. Not to mention this little girl, even this old man can't control the timing of my breakthrough. How can this be wrong? What's more, Ziyu could also take advantage of this opportunity to recuperate. It wouldn't be considered a loss, right? If the competition is Liyue's. Of course, Chu Liyue loses. She hasn't lost yet. Why did she admit defeat? Moreover, the result of the competition might be different after she breaks through. At the very least, it'll be a draw. Cheng Han gritted his teeth and cursed Sun Zhongyan for being so shameless. A draw? How could Chu Liyue be worthy of a draw with Situ Ziyue? Sun Zhongyan chuckled and asked, why? Brother Cheng Han, are you worried that Lu Yu will win the competition after she breaks through? Cheng Han sneered. You seem to think highly of her. Win? Chu Liyue has to have the ability to do so. Situ Ziyue suddenly said, since the competition isn't over yet, I'll wait. He wanted to see how much Chu Liyue's abilities would increase after breaking through in such a big way. Since Situ Ziyue had said so, the others naturally couldn't object. Hence, they all quieted down. Time passed by slowly. Cheng Han gradually became impatient and sized up the crystal barrier around Chu Liyue. This Chu Liyue really hid her abilities well. She actually has such a treasure with her. No wonder she was so arrogant previously. I think that she relied on this item to safely dodge Ziyue's ice flame finger. His tone was filled with dissatisfaction and even a little jealousy. This crystal barrier was extremely precious, and even he couldn't find it. Chu Liyue's identity wasn't the most prestigious, but she had quite a few good items on her. I wonder where she found this item. She might have used some tricks. Situ Xingxian listened at the side and didn't say anything, but she felt upset. I've only seen one person with this item. If I didn't see wrongly, this crystal barrier clearly belongs to that person. If not, even the tiny engravings on it wouldn't be exactly the same. How could Chu Liyue have such a precious item? Of course, someone gave it to her. However, what kind of relationship does that person have with Chu Liyue? Why is he so good that he would give her the crystal barrier? Situ Xingxian couldn't think of anything on Chu Liyue that could be exchanged for the crystal barrier. Also, according to that person's character, if he wasn't willing, who could snatch his things away? At the thought of this, Situ Xingxian's heart felt like it was being scratched, and she felt terrible. She had been in the imperial city for a few days, but she hadn't seen that person. To avoid arousing suspicion, she didn't even purposely send people to find out. However, she couldn't sit still now. Chu Liyue ignored all the noise around her, focused, and started to prepare for the breakthrough. However, she quickly realized that she didn't need to do much. The water droplet in her dantian was spinning rapidly, and ripples spread out from it. Even the engravings on it floated along with it. The surrounding heaven and earth force kept surging in and flowed into her dantian through her limbs and bones before being swallowed by the water droplet. The ripples became bigger and bigger. Chu Liyue couldn't help but feel nervous. What she didn't know was that a force whirlpool had appeared above her head along with this movement. The onlookers could also clearly feel the fluctuations of origin power around her. Some people started to whisper to each other. Wasn't Chu Liyue a Stage 1 warrior previously? Even if she broke through, she should have become a Stage 2 warrior, right? But why is the movement so big? You felt it too? I even felt that there wasn't such a movement when I broke through to become a Stage 3 warrior back then. But she's already very strong, so this seems normal. Bai Chen glanced at Sun Zhongyan and softly asked, Elder Sun, what do you think? Sun Zhongyan's expression was solemn. This movement is indeed unusual. Normal cultivators will only form a force whirlpool when they break through to become a Stage 4 warrior. Bai Chen was shocked. You mean, she might break through consecutively? Sun Zhongyan shook his head. That's not very possible. Consecutively breaking through is just a rumor. In fact, normal cultivators can't do it. But it seems like there's another reason for her to do this. What is it? Sun Zhongyan pursed his lips. Looking at Chu Liyue in the arena, a vague thought flashed through his mind. But because this thought was too shocking, he didn't dare to believe it for a moment. After a while, he finally looked at Bai Chen seriously. When this girl entered the academy, what was her Yuan Meridian level? Bai Chen was stunned. Yuan Meridian level? She didn't take it. Because she entered the academy halfway and didn't prepare enough for the exam, she didn't take it. He felt a little guilty when he said the second half of the sentence. Actually, it wasn't that he didn't prepare enough, but he felt that Chu Liyue wouldn't be able to pass the exam, so he didn't prepare for it. Sun Zhongyan saw through his thoughts at a glance, but he didn't expose him. In fact, it wasn't just Bai Chen. Everyone thought so at that time. Who would have expected that in just a few months, Chu Liyue would become the best in their academy? But do you think there's a problem with her Yuan Meridian? As Bai Chen spoke, he suddenly realized something and widened his eyes in shock. Wait a minute. Elder Sun was asking about Chu Liyue's Yuan Meridian level. Could he be suspecting that Chu Liyue has a Daijing Yuan Meridian? That's impossible. Bai Chen couldn't help but mutter. One had to know that in the entire country Yaoqin, there hadn't been a Daijing Yuan Meridian in 100 years. Sun Zhongyan's gaze was grave, but his heart was beating wildly. Without a test, no one can say for sure. It was fine if he didn't think of this, but once this thought popped up, he couldn't suppress it. This was the only way to explain why Chu Liyue's cultivation speed was so fast after recovering her Yuan Meridian and stepping into the path of cultivation. Otherwise, how could she rely on her rank as a Stage 1 warrior to win consecutively? Just as his heart was in a mess because of this, there was a sudden fluctuation in the arena. Chu Liyue had broken through. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 222. Crimson red force surged out from Chu Liyue's body and enveloped her like a blazing flame. The aura on her body had already risen to its peak. Chu Liyue only saw that there seemed to be an invisible hand on the water droplet that steadily drew a second line. Bang! In her mind, there was a soft and clear sound. Her internal and external injuries quickly healed, and the force in her dantian was even more abundant than before. In the next moment, she suddenly opened her eyes. A faint red glow flashed across her clear and sharp eyes. Rank 2 warrior. She looked at her palm and felt the surging force in her body. She couldn't help but smile. She finally broke through. After such a long wait, her previous efforts were not in vain. Although she didn't know why she suddenly broke through today, but, at this very moment, it was indeed a good thing for her. Seeing Chu Liyue break through, the originally quiet plaza became restless again. Chu Liyue raised her hand and kept the crystal barrier. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Situ Ziyue, who was standing opposite her, and smiled. Sorry to keep you waiting. Situ Ziyue quietly sized up Chu Liyue and unconsciously frowned. Chu Liyue's breakthrough this time actually didn't take too much time. It only took about the time for an incense stick to burn. But after breaking through, she was obviously different from before. The most obvious thing was that the aura on her body was much stronger than before. In addition, the injuries on her body seemed to have mostly healed because of the breakthrough just now. She had only broken through from a rank 1 warrior to a rank 2 warrior. How did Chu Liyue's body undergo such a huge change? He raised the Ling Xiao saber in his hand and the icy blue force quickly enveloped it. The strange pattern on it was faintly discernible. This time, you shouldn't have any other reason to delay the match, right? It's time to end it. Chu Liyue chuckled. What a coincidence, I think so too. As she spoke, she picked up the black crystal Xian formation again. With a thought, force gushed out. Buzz buzz. The black crystal Xian formation shone brightly. Soon, streaks of light flew out again. It quickly formed a huge Xian formation under Chu Liyue's feet. The originally dimmed Buddhist lotus slowly bloomed once more. Situ Ziyue sneered. Do you think you can win by using the same trick twice? The Ling Xiao saber in his hand suddenly slashed down. Falling clouds of flowers. Following this shout, the pattern on the blade suddenly moved. Then, a small cloud creeper flower suddenly bloomed. The trumpet flower slowly moved along the groove on the blade. With every inch he moved, the trumpet flowers grew a little bigger. When it slid to the tip of the blade, the trumpet flower was almost as big as a lantern. Go! Situ Ziyu shouted in a low voice. The trumpet flower flew up gracefully, falling towards Chu Liyue. Compared to the Buddhist lotus blooming under Chu Liyue's feet, the trumpet flower was much smaller. It was not even as big as one of the petals. However, no one dared to underestimate this cloud creeper flower. It slowly flew forward, and cracks gradually appeared on the ground that it passed by. One could see how strong its suppression was. Chu Liyue looked up and glanced at it. Even though there was still a distance between them, she could clearly feel the terrifying power contained in it. The indescribable suppression made her body tense up, and she found it hard to breathe. Falling clouds of flowers? Isn't that one of the 3 ultimate moves of the Ling Xiao saber? Situ Ziyue can actually use it now. It seems like he's really going to break through and become a Stage 5 warrior. The force in his body is actually so abundant. He seems to be only 21 years old this year. Speaking of which, he's even younger than Rong Jin, but he's only 1 step away from becoming a Stage 5 warrior. If he breaks through, he'll probably become the youngest Stage 5 warrior. Seeing the trumpet flower in the air, the crowd couldn't hide their shock as they discussed fervently. Rong Jin, who had been watching this competition from the side, had a cold expression when he heard this. He was the most famous genius in country Yaochen, but he was indeed lacking compared to Situ Ziyue. In the past few years, the two of them had fought a few times, but Rong Jin lost more than he won. This was especially so in the Qin Jiao competition last year, where he lost completely. He originally thought that after a year of cultivation he could catch up to Situ Ziyue and even surpass him. However, looking at the current situation, the gap between the two of them had become even bigger. Not mentioning other things, just the Buddha lotus formation that Chu Luiwei used just now already required a lot of effort for him to deal with it. Thinking of this, he felt even more aggrieved. His jaw tightened, and the surrounding aura was as cold as ice. The trumpet flower was getting closer and closer. However, if the surrounding people took a closer look, they would notice that Chu Luiwei wasn't panicking at all. She retracted her gaze and quietly looked at the black Xian formation in her hands. Success or failure depends on this, muttered Chu Luiwei softly. Then she injected all the force in her body into it without holding back. A sound suddenly came from the black Xian formation. Situ Ziyue chuckled. You're about to die, yet you still don't regret? Suddenly, the mocking smile at the corner of his mouth froze. His eyes were filled with shock. He saw that under Chu Luiwei's feet, under the Buddha lotus that was slowly blooming, countless rays of light were gathering. In just an instant, even more petals had formed. Chu Luiwei had actually activated the second layer of the Buddha lotus on the black Xian formation. In other words, she had used her own strength to activate the full power of this level 4 Xian formation. Looking at the Buddha lotus that was passionately blooming with layers of petals, Situ Ziyue's heart suddenly felt uneasy. It wasn't that he didn't know the power of a level 4 Xian formation. At this moment, the trumpet flower had already flown in front of Chu Luiwei. Chu Luiwei suddenly waved her hand in front of her. That Buddhist lotus also suddenly moved forward according to her will. Its speed wasn't fast, but the distance between the trumpet flower and Chu Luiwei was already not far. Therefore, it didn't take much time for the Buddha lotus and the trumpet flower to confront each other. Buzz. The petals of the Buddha lotus swayed gently. The trumpet flower's flying speed suddenly decreased by a lot. Buzz. The layers of petals swayed with the wind. The trumpet flower had completely stopped. It was hanging right above the Buddha lotus. Chu Luiwei's clear voice instantly rang out, "Close." As her voice fell, the petals of the Buddha lotus started to close gradually. The trumpet flower seemed to have lost control and fell down. The layers of petals instantly closed up and completely covered it. Situ Ziyue's face suddenly paled a little. After some time, the Buddha lotus bloomed again. Its petals were already damaged by a lot. It was obvious that it had used up a lot of energy in the fight just now. However, the Buddha lotus that was originally aggressive now looked like it had been defeated. It fell to the ground dispiritedly, without any signs of life. Situ Ziyue suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and knelt on the ground. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 223. At the same time, his aura quickly weakened. Ling Xiao blade was connected to him. Now that his move was broken, he would naturally suffer a backlash. He was furious and indignant. He wanted to stand up immediately, but he was too anxious, and anger attacked his heart. This movement caused him to fall to the ground and spit out a few mouthfuls of blood. His face was as pale as a ghost. "Brother!" Situ Xianxia frantically stood up and rushed toward the competition venue. But when she reached the side of the venue, a voice suddenly traveled to her ears. "Eldest Princess Situ, if you go on stage now, it'll be considered his loss." Situ Xianxia's body froze, and she stopped in her tracks as she turned around. Chu Luiwei was standing on stage and looked at her lazily in a seemingly smiling manner. Situ Xianxia clenched her fists in her sleeves. "Chu Luiwei." "Yes, I'm here." Chu Luiwei seemed to not hear the anger in Situ Xianxia's voice as he lifted his chin. "I think your brother still wants to fight." It doesn't seem appropriate for you to go up now. Situ Xingqian was so angry that her face changed. She looked at Situ Ziyue again. Standing closer, she could see the messy bloodstains on his face and body even more clearly. Her heart seemed to have been harshly stabbed with a knife, and it hurt immensely. Brother. Situ Ziyue heard her voice and looked up with much difficulty. Xingqian, go back. As he spoke, he supported his body and tried to stand up. But his internal injuries were too serious, so he fell down again when he stood up halfway. Situ Xingqian's eyes were quickly filled with tears. In her heart, her brother had always been the most outstanding warrior genius. He was always high-spirited and full of vigor, proud of himself. When had he ever been in such a pathetic state? And the person who caused all of this was Chu Luiyue. Brother? Situ Xingqian wanted to persuade him not to continue, but anyone could tell that he no longer had the strength to fight. Even though Chu Luiyue's strength was depleted and his lips were pale, he wasn't injured. If the two of them continued fighting, the outcome wouldn't change. Instead, it would make her brother's situation worse. But she couldn't say this out loud. Her brother was such a proud person, how could he admit to losing to a rank 2 warrior? Chu Luiyue looked at Situ Ziyue with a smile. If you still want to continue, I will accompany you to the end. In other words, if Situ Ziyue did not take the initiative to admit defeat, she would continue to fight to the death. Everyone looked at this scene with complicated expressions. Before the match, before the time it took for an incense stick to burn, who would have thought that Chu Luiyue would gain the upper hand in the end? Moreover, he was actually able to force Situ Ziyue to such an extent. Cheng Han finally couldn't stand it any longer. Xingqian, help your brother down. Situ Xingqian glanced at him hesitantly before she finally lifted her skirt and prepared to go on stage. Oh no. Situ Ziyue shook his head, his brows tightly knitted together. If he were to step down now, wouldn't he lose completely? Bring him down. Cheng Han's voice became much harsher. Situ Xingqian paused in her steps, but she still stepped forward in the end. Everyone fell silent for a moment. This meant that Situ Ziyue had lost. Brother, let's go down. Situ Xingqian held his arm and said with heartache. Situ Ziyue was furious as he angrily waved his arm, wanting to fling her away. However, his actions were weak, and he couldn't even break free from Situ Xingqian's grip. Situ Xingqian bit her lower lip and finally understood why her mentor directly asked her to help her brother down. He's actually so severely injured. Situ Xingqian helped Situ Ziyue up without any explanation. Brother, let's talk when we get back. Situ Ziyue didn't want to leave with his tail between his legs. That would be a huge humiliation. However, he knew his own body's condition very well. Even if he continued to stay, he wouldn't have any chances of winning. He stared deeply at Chu Luiyue, his eyes filled with anger and hatred. Chu Luiyue ignored him and continued to wave with a smile. Take care. Situ Ziyue spat out another mouthful of blood. Situ Xingqian's heart tightened, and she finally couldn't help but turn around and stare at Chu Luiyue. She enunciated each word clearly and said, Mentor once told me not to be depressed when I lose and not to be arrogant when I win. If not, I don't know when I'll suffer a huge setback. When that time comes, it'll definitely be very painful. Chu Luiyue blinked. Director Cheng Han is indeed a person of virtue and prestige, and his words are very logical. However, her gaze turned and landed on Situ Ziyue as she regretfully said, Unfortunately, it's a pity. Your brother doesn't seem to have heard of this before. Look, he suffered a huge setback in front of me, didn't he? Situ Xingqian was stumped. I've never seen such a shameless person who inverts right and wrong. Situ Ziyue was about to faint from anger. He raised his arm as if he wanted to do something, but it drooped down weakly in the end. I hope you'll always be so smug. Situ Xingqian stared deeply at Chu Luiyue and didn't say anything else as she turned around and left with Situ Ziyue. Chu Luiyue watched the two of them leave, and her lips curled up. Thank you for your blessings. I'll definitely work hard. Situ Xingqian's heart was in turmoil. How did that person interact with such a woman? Scheming, cunning, scheming. What exactly is he thinking? Could it be just because of that face? Situ Xingxian's heart was filled with thoughts. Even after she brought Situ Ziyu away, her heart still couldn't calm down. However, Chu Luiwei didn't even care about them. She only cared about one thing now. Elder son, according to the rules, I'm now in the second round, right? Sun Zhongyan's heart couldn't be described with the word shocked. Chu Liuyue's series of performances had already made him extremely proud and elated. When he thought of that possibility again, he really couldn't like Chu Luiyue anymore. Of course. He looked around and said confidently, Tianzhongyan, this is the first round. For this round, Tianlu Academy's Chu Luiyue wins. Qing Jiao competition's preliminary ranking. Chu Luiyue succeeded in his challenge and is ranked first. His low and deep voice instantly reverberated throughout the entire square. Mobile users, please browse the internet for a better reading experience. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.